Okay, can y'all hear us now?
Wait, no, we're not. 1 second. Because there's a little delay.
Okay, can y'all hear us now? Okay, good. I don't know what's going on with this mic.
It better not be broke.
There's always something in there.
Is it there?
I don't even see it on here in the menu. That's all right. Y'all can still hear us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear it.
I heard it through the thing, so I heard it through my phone.
I know we pushed the button a couple times, so just want to make sure. We only got one person, so we're good. Okay, good. All right.
Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters.
Shalom.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. The devil is busy as usual.
Yeah.
I am Bishop Tazadak. This is Elder Nathaniel of the House of Judah International Fellowship Church. First and foremost, we want to give all thanks and praise to the Most High, Haya Bahashem Yeshaya, Wa Rawak. All right, for bringing us back once again for another week, for another lesson, continuing to part 2 of a lesson that we did the week before last, the history of magic and voodoo amongst Israel, right? The history of magic and voodoo amongst Israel. Now, before we dive in, we want to send a special shout out to our body in Sierra Leone. Everybody say hello.
Bless you all.
All right, so we want to give a special greeting to you guys. We love you all, and we hope to see you guys very, very soon.
Yes.
Okay, so today, like I said, we're going to be going into part 2. Now, do not be alarmed. We're going in a little bit of a unorthodox direction. For a lot of people who've been following the church for a long time, when you watch a lot of our informative lessons, you see the kind of angles that we come from are a little bit different than what you're used to seeing.
Right.
But when the Most High placed this particular lesson on our spirits, when we started constructing this lesson, he sent it into a direction to really get the fullness of the history of magic and voodoo. Where does this actually begin? The roots of history and of magic and voodoo within the, not only within the earth, but specifically amongst our people, because it continues to plague our people, and it is something that's being used to plague our people even today. We're also going to show you the unorthodox methods used by the higher powers and the elites to use this on us without us even realizing that it's being used. Right? Our mindsets are actively in this system, not realizing that it's a spell that's been placed on our people since the time that we first arrived here. And for the people who are still arriving here from wherever they may be coming from, right? So we want to get the fullness of the complete sort of goal of what it is we're trying to bring across and what it is that we're trying to edify the people on. Right. So recapping what we learned last week. What we learned last week is, first of all, who taught those necromancers and the voodoo priests, and who were they taught by? We found that they were taught by the fallen angels, right? And the roots of those spirits and those demons that are being used. Keep in mind, voodoo. It means that to be a voodooist means to be a servant of the spirits, right?
That's right.
So now that we have that knowledge as to what a voodoo priest is, what Haitian voodoo is, and what magic is, now we can sort of start to get an idea as to the full history and how these spirits are being used today, right? And for those of you who haven't seen part 1, I suggest when we conclude here that you go and you watch part 1 so that it brings everything that you know now full circle. Right. So now we're going to dive into the lesson after that brief introduction. Right. So we know according to the scriptures, and we know according to the history of Israel itself, that we were a monotheistic nation, something that wasn't very popular in that time period, something that wasn't done very much. So it was very peculiar that Israel was a monotheistic nation. And you look at it, you'll think, oh, well, Christianity is monotheistic, Islam is monotheistic. But what we don't realize is that they aren't monotheistic, right? You have a lot of, even in Christianity, you have a name that you call on for a certain thing. Where you're looking for a certain thing. You have this name that you call on for a certain thing. Not even realizing that those methods are polytheistic.
Right.
Right. Oh, well, this is Jehovah Jireh. This is Jehovah Nisi. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Not realizing that these, even though those specific names derive back from places, they're being used not in the name of a places, but as a reference to a God that does a certain thing.
Right.
People don't even know that practice itself is polytheistic. Right? The Most High's name is I Am. He's all inclusive of all of those things that you're looking for.
Right.
If you need a guide, I am is that. I am a guide. If you need wherever you may need, I am fits all of those methods. There's no need to call on a different name for a different thing. That's what I am is. Right? So Israel was a monotheistic nation, right?
Right.
And that means that we only served one God throughout our nation's history, at least in theory. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Right? And God gave his people a specific command, right? When he brought us out of Egypt and he brought us into the wilderness, he gave us commandments, right?
Right.
And one of the main commands that he gave us was to remain a monotheistic nation, right? So what in specific was this command? We're going to get it from Exodus chapter 20.
Ready? Exodus chapter 20, verse 1. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God.
I am the Most High thy power, read.
Which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
This is the God that brought us out of the land of Egypt, read.
Out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Now keep in mind, look at in reference to what the Most High says here in verse 2. I am the Most High thy power, right? Which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, right? So he's making clear who he is and who it is that brought them out of the land of Egypt. Why does he have to do this? You're going to see in the very next passage of scripture that we have very bad memory. For him to have to specify this not once, not twice, but multiple times during our people's history. Right. He has to specify, listen, I am the Most High thy power.
It says something like it says new recording has been stopped automatically on the
Hit this.
You're not doing it on the battery like you said?
Yes. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, so it says, I am the Most High thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. He had to specify again who he is and what it is that he did, right, for the children of Israel. Right. So we see here that he said, I am the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Read.
Get back to it 1 second. Verse 4. Verse 4, thou shalt make unto thee any great graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath.
Okay, so we see here in verse 3 that he says, thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? Thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? So he's saying, listen, I'm the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt, therefore you serve me. So I'm the one who freed you. I'm the one that you made the covenant with, therefore you serve me. Any other god, those belong to somebody else. So you serve none of the other gods. What are the gods that he's referring to? The ones that we learned in Egypt. He brought us out of the land of Egypt. He took us away from those gods. So he's saying, serve not those gods, you serve me. Right? And along with that, he made another commandment. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image in the likeness of anything in the heaven above, read.
Or that is in the earth beneath.
Or in the earth beneath, read.
Or that is in the water under the earth.
So that means statues of anything, a statue of a person, a statue of an animal, a statue of whatever it is that's a part of creation, a part of the Most High's creation. We are not to make idols. Right? This was something that the nations did. The nations looked and worshiped the creation rather than creator. Right? This was not something that Israel was to do. Now, what you're going to realize going forward into this lesson, that this is going to be a recurring theme, right? And you're going to see how important it is that this particular thing was outlined along with serving other gods. Go ahead and read verse 5.
Verse 5, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Verse 6, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
So he says, I, the Most High thy power, am a jealous God. Right? So we see here, we get the character of the Most High and the fact of his possessiveness over our people. Right? Listen, these are the people that I chose. I chose you. Therefore, choose me. Right? Now, like I said, we look at the history of Israel, and obviously we're meant to be a monotheistic nation. But throughout our history, we continue to see a polytheistic theme. Right? And the theme that pairs with this polytheism is graven images, right? The Most High made it clear that we as his people were not to serve other gods that we became acquainted with in Egypt. Because keep in mind, going into Egypt, who was our God? The Most High, right? So when we became a nation within Egypt, the gods within Egypt became our gods. And we forgot. Now keep in mind, when we adopted the gods of Egypt, who did we forget? Right? What God went out the window when we adopted the gods of Egypt? Our God. Why is it that every time we adopt another nation's God, our God goes out the window? You can be polytheistic. You can serve all of these other gods, but when it comes to your own, he's just out the window. You can't worship this God and this God at the same time. It's because even back then they knew you can't dip one foot here and another foot there. Even then they knew that. That's just like Christ said, you can't drink of the cup of righteousness and of the cup of devils. Even back then, even prior to this time, they had that understanding. That is why when it came to these other God, this particular our God, the God that we're supposed to serve alone, he has specific rules against the other gods. So you can't serve both at the same time. That's why when we're in these captivities, our God went out the window and we adopted the other gods. Right? It says not to bow ourselves to any graven image that is in the earth, and to serve them, and we will be blessed throughout our generations. Right? Now, I want to know what possesses somebody to think that they can that you should bow yourself down to an image of an ox. That's witchcraft in itself. The fact that you're able to look at an animal, one that you use, one that you have power over. You can kill an ox and eat it. You can use the ox to till the ground. But you feel inclined within yourself to worship this thing that the Most High gave you power over.
That amongst other things in the earth.
Let alone that, it's not even the animal itself. At least the animal itself can kill you. But you make an image of an animal that you were given power over that can't do anything. All it can do is sit there and gather dust. That itself is witchcraft. The thought that you've given something power over you that you were made to have power over. Right? That's witchcraft in itself. That's like having a child and that child kicking you behind all around the house like an adult. That child was born to walk after you, not you after it. Right? What made Israel different from other nations is that there was no image associated with him. There was no image. Right? Israel, we as a people, when people looked at Israel, they saw the Most High in us. We were the image of the Most High. So the Most High didn't need an image. If we walked after what the Most High had planned for us to be, if we had followed the laws, if we had kept his laws, statutes, and commandments, dressed how he commanded us to dress, eat how we're supposed to eat, we ourselves to the other nations were God on earth.
That's right.
When you look at the wars between our forefathers, the 12 patriarchs and other nations, these men were like superheroes. When Joseph was disguised and his son broke the rock, Simeon said, "Nah, he has to be a Hebrew." There's no other nation that has strength like that. No, that's Hebrew strength. So that shows you just how different as far as our makeup and our ability to do things with the power of the Most High made us. Mm-hmm. People looked at us and said, nah, can't nobody do that but a Hebrew.
That's right. That's right.
So that should tell you just what the children of Israel looked like to the other nations. It's like, listen, these people have a certain God on them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They can do things that we can't do because of their God. Which is why when they see us separated from our God, they're like, ooh, weak spot. What is our weak spot? What is our weak spot? Let's get Exodus chapter 32, verse 1.
Exodus chapter 32, verse 1. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, mm-hmm. the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, mm-hmm. and said unto him, up, make us gods.
That's the first thing they said. They said, you know what? We ain't seen Moses in a little minute. I bet you it probably hadn't even been that long. Uh-huh. Right. Maybe about 20 days. Moses go up there mm-hmm. for 20 days. It's like, all right, make us some gods. That's the first thing. Read.
Up, make us gods, uh-huh. which shall go before us. As for this Moses, mm-hmm. the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt.
Read that again.
The man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt.
See how quickly we forgot? That's why the Most High specified in Exodus chapter 20 that he's the one who brought us out of the land of Egypt. Because no soon as we got that information, mm-hmm. We perceive Moses, we see the image of Moses, mm-hmm. a man, a physical man, and we attribute God's act to him.
That's right.
So we've already... We look at Moses, we're like, okay, so we can't see our God. Mm-hmm. This wasn't some statue that Moses was holding and carrying around. We don't see our God. So because we don't see him, we attribute what he did to the servant.
That's right.
Oh, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt. Not the God, right. The man. That's why they were so quick to say, make us gods. Mm-hmm. Because just that quick, they forgot their own.
Mm. Wow.
Read.
The man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him.
Mm. See how quickly they forgot? That's why the Most High said, I am the Most High, your power, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. Mm-hmm. He had to specify who he was.
God.
Because Israel has short memory. Right?
That's right.
It says the man. That's partly... That's the mindset of our people. Mm-hmm. Seeing is believing applies to us. Mm-hmm. We see the act, but there has to be something that we can see behind the act.
Right.
And that's a certain level of a lack of faith amongst our people. That we look at something and we look at an act, and it has to be someone rather than something. Oh, there has to be an explanation, a logical explanation.
Right.
How can a check come that wasn't written by somebody? Mm. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, right. but you can believe the virgin birth though.
Wow.
You can't believe that it was a God who brought us out of the land of Egypt, but you can believe that a woman got pregnant by a spirit.
Mm. Wow.
So why can't you believe that it was a spirit that led us out of the land of Egypt? You had to attribute that to a man? Mm. Why can't you do the same for Mary? See?
Right.
There's holes in this thing.
Right.
Right? Now, Aaron obviously makes the image. And these are the same images that go directly back to ancient Egypt. Keep in mind, when you look at the majority of the gods that existed in the time of Israel, what we see is that it was usually represented by a calf.
Right.
Right? It was represented by a calf or an ox. Right? Mm-hmm. So this was nothing new. Those two golden calves weren't something that Israel hadn't seen before. And it's something that continues to come back. Mm-hmm. Now, as we reviewed at the end of the previous part 1, right? Mm-hmm. We saw that particular calf was regarded as who? Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
The calf was referred to as Yahweh. So what we continue to see throughout Israel's history, and what we're going to see again in a moment, is that Yahweh continues to come back and plague our people. Mm-hmm. Right. We learned Yahweh in Egypt. We left Egypt by our God's hand. Then no sooner as we got into the wilderness by way of our God, Yahweh comes back.
Yeah.
Who majority of the earth's population is what? Christian.
Right.
Majority of Israel around the world. What is our religion? Christian.
Right.
Who is the God of Christianity? Yahweh. So nothing's changed. It's the same thing. Nothing's changed.
Right.
Yahweh is always at the center. This calf is always at the center of chaos amongst our people. This golden calf, this idol.
Right.
And why are we going into idols? Like I said, we're taking an unorthodox method to get here, because at the center of all evil, there is an idol. There's something to be seen.
Right.
Right? Even in voodoo, there has to be something that spirit attaches itself to. Right?
Right.
In magic, there's some. Keep in mind, and when you look at magic and you look at different types of magic and things that people do, there has to be an item that the spirit is attached to, whether it be a ball or whether it be a wand. There has to be something that is attached to, whether it be a stone. Mm-hmm. It's usually stones. A lot of people don't realize when you go to these markets and buy beads and different things like that, there are spirits attached to these things. Crystals, statues. Right. These spirits are prayed and attach themselves to these items. Once again, like I said, idols. An image. Right? The beginning of all of Israel's descent into witchcraft begins first with an image. Let's get that golden calf again. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 12.
Be able to see it. Okay. Kings. 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 26. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David.
Now, context to what's going on here. Jeroboam was a wicked king, right? He was the wicked king of the northern kingdom of Israel, right? And he said, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. What is he talking about? The feast days. Mm-hmm. There are 3 feast days throughout the year in which Israel returns, the nation returns to Jerusalem. We go to the capital, right? Mm-hmm. For a holy day. So he's saying, my kingdom shall return to the house of David. They're going to the southern kingdom for this feast day.
Right.
Read.
Verse 27. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, mm-hmm. then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, mm-hmm. even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah. Mm-hmm. And they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah.
Okay, so what is he talking about here? Since he was a wicked king, right? Jeroboam was a wicked king. So what is he afraid of here? He's saying, if I let these people go back to the southern kingdom, mm-hmm. to the capital of to the king of all, because technically, keep in mind, Judah is the king over all of Israel. Mm-hmm. So if their hearts return to Rehoboam, right? If they return to him, then keep in mind, Rehoboam was a righteous king. He practiced righteousness. So he's saying if they go back to the capital, mm-hmm. where they're under a righteous king doing a righteous sacrifice to the Most High, they'll kill me.
That's right.
Because I'm wicked. They're going to go back to the capital and remember their God.
Right.
And they're going to go right back to doing this. They're going to realize that I'm wicked, and they're going to kill me and replace me with somebody who's fit.
That's right.
So what does he do? What does he do? He says, here's the problem. They're going back to the southern kingdom. And I've been wicked. I've been very wicked. And they're going to go back and they're going to remember their God. They're going to make that sacrifice. They're going to get right with the Most High. And they're going to see Rehoboam doing all these great things. And he's doing all this righteous stuff. And then they're going to say, hey, that joker back there in the northern kingdom ain't acting right. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to put me on trial. So what's his solution? Let's get verse 28.
Verse 28. Whereupon the king took counsel.
So he took counsel.
Mm-hmm.
This is often what happened, right? He took a group of his smartest people,
mm-hmm.
the leaders of that nation. All right, y'all, what we gonna do? Read.
Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold.
2 what?
2 calves of gold.
Yahweh's back for an encore. Read.
And said unto them, wow, 2 calves of gold, and started talking to them. How about that?
Go ahead.
And made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
So what did he not only he quotes Aaron in Exodus chapter 32. Remember when Aaron finished making the golden calf, what did he say to Israel? He said, these be the gods that brought you out of the land of Egypt.
That's right.
Now, keep in mind, he says gods. He says gods plural. Aaron said gods plural, but he only had 1 calf. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? There were multiple spirits attached to this one idol. Mm-hmm. There are multiple spirits attached to this one idol. Now he creates 2. Now we're going to figure out why he creates 2 golden calves. But look at the way he presents this. He says, whereupon the king took counsel, made 2 calves of gold. Yahweh's back. Mm-hmm. Brings back the same image that we had that Aaron created in the wilderness. Brings back Egypt, right? And he says, you know what? The walk from the northern kingdom to the southern kingdom, going all the way back that's a long walk. Mm. That's a lot of travel to have to go all the way back to Jerusalem. So you know what? Behold thy gods. Rips the sheet off of the 2 golden calves. There you go. You don't got to walk that far no more. Because these are the gods that brought you out of the land of Egypt. Mm. You don't even got to go to the southern kingdom. Your gods are right here. Look what I've done for you.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Go ahead and read verse 29.
Verse 29. And he set the one in Bethel, mm-hmm. and the other one he put in Dan.
So he set one in Bethel, right? And another one in Dan. So he put them in 2 different places, in two areas, so that everybody could, at a certain time of year, can gather to either one of these areas, mm-hmm. right? Now, I want you to notice Dan, because Dan was a huge conspirator inside of this whole issue. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at Dan had the least job in the temple. He was supposed to decorate. That's all he was supposed to do. Dan's job was to decorate the temple. Mm-hmm. But now Dan made himself a judge. He's placed himself in a position of a judge. That's not a position that was appointed unto him. Keep in mind what Genesis chapter 49 says about Dan. He's made himself a judge of the people. Mm-hmm. Right? So they placed one in Dan and another one in Bethel. Read.
Verse 30. And this thing became a sin. Mm-hmm. For the people went to worship before the one, mm-hmm. even unto Dan.
So it became a sin to the people. Now you're going to see what came along with these golden calves in a minute. Everything that came along with these golden calves. Read.
And he made a house of high places and made priests of the lowest of the people.
He made priests of the lowest of the people. Read. Who are they not from?
Which were not of the sons of Levi.
He was afraid of the children of Levi. Keep in mind, Levi didn't have a land. Levi was dwelling in each of the lands as a priest. Mm-hmm. So he appointed priests from the lowest of people as opposed to Levi. Why? Because the Levites were keeping the laws. Mm-hmm. And notice when Levi was found to be wicked, when mm-hmm. when Levi found that the northern kingdom was wicked, what did they do? They went to the southern kingdom. Right. So they took priests of the lowest, right? They took priests of the lowest of Israel, right? So you look at here, they said, you know what, Dan, you get to decorate the temple. You don't got a good job. What if I made you a priest? Since Levi won't do it. Right. What if I made you a priest because Levi won't do it? So he said, okay. And we're gonna displace the Levites, even though that's their actual job. Right. And they said they made a house in high places. They made a temple and everything. Let's get verse 32.
Verse 32.
Check this out. Read.
And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah.
Check that out. Look at how crafty Jeroboam was. See, he didn't want to. He knew if he put this particular feast in place, and it looked like the wickedness that he was doing, that the people would be more reluctant to do it. Because keep in mind, the people within the northern kingdom were still going to go back to the southern kingdom to keep the same feast, to keep a righteous feast. So if he was to establish a feast that was wicked, people would have questions. So what did he do? He established a feast in the 8th month, right? Keep in mind, the Feast of Tabernacles is in the 7th month on the 15th day of the month, right? He established a feast in the 8th month on the 15th day of the 8th month. Exactly a month after the Feast of Tabernacles. Right? And then he made it almost identical to the one that was kept in Judah, that they would have kept had they gone back to Jerusalem. See how crafty he was there?
That's right.
And he offered an offering upon the altar. So he even made a sacrifice. He made the sacrifice and all the practices look exactly like a righteous ceremony that would have been kept had they gone back to Judah.
Wow.
You see that? See how crafty he was, how sneaky he was in setting this up?
Right.
You see that? It's interesting that, and keep in mind, this is also a feast that fell on a Monday. It fell on a Monday. Well, no, it fell on a Sunday, Slocky. It fell on a Sunday, right?
Right.
Go ahead and finish that out.
I'm going to go back to 32. Verse 32. And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah. So
he wanted this to look as close to the real thing as possible. Read.
And he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethel, sacrificing unto, the calves that he had made.
So he made the same exact ceremony, but instead of the sacrifices being to the Most High, he made them to the calves. Remember what Aaron did in Exodus chapter 32. He said, tomorrow we shall have a feast unto the Lord, unto Yahweh, to that calf. This is the same. Jeroboam, this isn't something new that he came up with. Right. He looked back in our records and saw, hey, we did this before, and it worked. I can do it again. And said, you know what? I can do it better.
Right.
I can do it better, bigger on a grander scale than what Aaron did.
That's right.
Read.
And he placed in Bethel the priests of the high places which he had made.
So he made his own priest. He even made his own priesthood.
Wow, look at that.
So Jeroboam, the wicked king of northern Israel, had done evil, and he knew that if the people returned to the house of Judah, right, under the righteous king, King Rehoboam, for the feast, which was customary, right, they had to return to the southern kingdom, that they would return to the Most High and decide that this joker need to die. He's broken the law, so what he deserves is death. So he said, nah, don't send him back down there. Don't. We got to figure something out so we don't got to go back down here. So he pulls in Exodus 32.
Right.
It's too far. Walking from the northern kingdom to that's like us saying, oh man, I'm living in California. I got to walk all the way to Boston for a feast day. They said, nah, Boston's too far. It's too far. Just come to New Mexico. It's still a little distance, but New Mexico ain't Boston. So it's just too far for you to walk. And then he makes his own feast that's identical to the one that the Most High established that was supposed to be in Judah. Except these sacrifices are being done unto Yahweh. He pulled a full Exodus 32. Right? Now, what happened as a result of Jeroboam's actions? Let's get 1 Kings chapter 14.
1 Kings chapter 14, verse 15. For the Lord shall smite Israel as a reed is shaken in the water, and he shall root up Israel out of this good land.
They got rooted up. Read.
Which he gave to their fathers, and shall scatter them beyond the river, because they okay, because they have made their groves provoking the Lord to anger, and he shall give Israel up because of the sins of Jeroboam, who did sin, who made Israel to sin.
So all because of Jeroboam's actions and his leading the people astray, Israel was displaced. Now you see the diaspora, right? At the hands of the Assyrians, right? At the hands of the Assyrians, the northern kingdom was rooted up, removed out of the northern kingdom. No more. That's it. Because of Jeroboam's action and his sin, right? But what we don't realize is all the spirits and the practices that were attached to these calves. Not only were they, because keep in mind, it starts off you're sacrificing a ram, right? Oh, I'm going to go sacrifice a ram to this calf. But keep in mind, that's the sacrifice that the Most High requires. That's not the sacrifice that the calf requires. What we're going to see throughout the scriptures is that the sacrifice that was required from the calf was the same things that we see with the sacrifices of Moloch. It required blood, not animal blood. It required the blood of a person. How many of you were present for the live that we did concerning Voodoo, the interview that we did with Miss Ruby? How many were present for that? What did she say was required to make a covenant? Blood, the blood of a person, right? That's what's required from the calf, right? So the calf said, all right, you know what? Since they're just not getting started, we're going to let them get food into doing the calf sacrifice, animal sacrifice, but eventually you're going to have to give me what I want. This isn't what I require.
Right.
Right? And that was the beginning of Israel tumbling off into a place where they weren't supposed to be. Right? So once again, we see that the beginning of the sin of Israel began with what? Idolatry. Once again, it started with an image, right? The idolatry, as stated earlier, was not the greatest sin itself, right? But what came with these idols that was worshipped by our people and practices was forbidden by the Most High. So it was the practices and it was the spirits that came along with the idols, right? Because keep in mind, the scriptures say that an idol is dumb. It's a block of wood or a block of stone or a piece of or a rock. It can't do anything. It just gathers dust. The idol itself isn't the greatest sin. It's everything that's attached to it and the practices that come with it. Right?
Right.
And these practices include, but are not limited to, child sacrifice, unclean sacrifices, meaning you're sacrificing unclean animals such as pig, right? Necromancy, divination, etc. All these are directly connected to voodoo and dark magic. That's right. How do we know this? Let's get 2 Kings. 2 Kings chapter 17.
2 Kings chapter 17, verse 8. And walked in the statutes of the heathen.
Okay, so they're walking after the order and the practices of the heathen. Read.
Whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. Verse 9. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God.
Read.
And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. Verse 10. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill.
So it started off with just 2 golden calves. But then now you got idols being set up everywhere. You got these statues of different gods being set up everywhere. Right? This was a practice of the heathen, right? This was something that the children of Israel was supposed to have gotten rid of. But keep in mind, when we went into the land of Israel, what were we doing? The scripture said we were conquesting. We were removing the nations that were there off. But if you remember reading in the book of Numbers and reading throughout the New Testament, throughout the Torah, the book of Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, you will see that we didn't remove all of the nations that were in the land. That was the first problem. because they thought that they could dwell in a house with wickedness and be righteous. See, that's why in the New Testament it says, you're not supposed to associate with yourself with people who have devils. You think that, because I'm righteous, my righteousness will rub off on them. No, that's not how it works.
Right.
The children of darkness are wiser than the children of light.
Exactly.
They're rubbing off on you. We thought, they said they're going to do it. Hey, come on then. Since y'all say y'all going to do what we do. Right. Hey, y'all come chill with us then. We going to all have a little righteous party. And then this happened. Who do you think they learned these practices from? God? Our God? It says they walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Most High cast out from before the children of Israel. These are people who weren't even supposed to be on the land. We weren't even supposed to be associated with these people. Keep in mind, the land of Canaan, which we went to possess, was the most wicked land on the earth at the time. You had Nephilim and all different kinds of crazy crap going on in this country. But we decided to leave that wickedness among us. Wow. That was issue number one. That was ground zero. Right? So it started off with just 2 golden calves. But then you start to see, it says, then they started building them in the temples, in the high places of all their cities, and in the towers, to the fences. Now there's images everywhere. How many of you know that an image is the sign of destruction? See, what the heathen want, because keep in mind that the only way that they can subdue us, the only way that the nations can subdue the children of Israel is when we're weak. When are we weak? Who can tell me when we're weak? We're weak when we're destitute of our God. When we don't have our God, that's when we're weak. How do they know that we don't have our God? When they see another one. When they walk in our house and they see that you got a statue of a cross up on your wall, oh, these people are weak. They're destitute of their God. That's an image. They walk in and they see a big old little stone thing. Oh, that's an energy stone. They say, oh yeah, they're vulnerable. You got on some beads. Oh, these regulate my anger. Oh, you're weak. You're destitute of your God. There's a spirit attached to that. And notice, every time we set up an image, somebody came in and sacked us. Every single time. Because an image is a sign that we're destitute of our God. It's something you can see. Right. I don't even have to wait. I walk in and I see that image, it's like, oh yeah, that's a weak one right there. We got him. Right. We can move now. And you know what? After we get them, we have to make sure that they hold on to this image. And that's the second part of witchcraft. See, I was telling the elder about this earlier. I was like, it's witchcraft in itself that you can come from another country, and come here to America, be homeless, and still think that you're living the American dream. Wow. that a black man can witness his brothers and sisters being killed in the streets and say, you know what? America is still the greatest country on earth. It's witchcraft in itself. Wow. That you can live in a country that's actively persecuting you, killing you. A white man can get along, but you can't. You're continuously being suppressed and oppressed. But yet you can sit up here and say, oh, I'm living in the greatest country on earth. I'm living the American dream. This is America. Wow. It's witchcraft in and of itself. Ever thought about that? Wow. You up here getting kicked in the streets by a cop talking about this is the greatest country on earth. Meanwhile, he's kicking your brains out. That's witchcraft in itself. And you see how you use that mindset to keep somebody in captivity. It's the same slave mindset that we had when we were in slavery. See, at least my master don't beat us like they master beat them. I got it good over here. We get 2 slices of cornbread. They only get 1. I got it good over here. Wow. It's a slave mindset, is it not? Yeah. I get what, and notice it was always pitting one against the other. Listen, I know for a fact that if I have this, since I get some slaves to live in the house and I keep the other ones outside. The ones that I let live in the house, they live better than the ones out there. So they'll be more loyal to me than the ones out there. So if the ones out there start planning something, then the ones in here are going to tell me. Because guess what? They're under the mindset that I got it good. I got it better. I'm privileged to be in here rather than being out there. You see the psychology of it? That's witchcraft in and of itself.
Right.
See, there's levels to this. There's levels to witchcraft. That's just a small part of it. Like I said, it's like I said earlier in the lesson, it's witchcraft that you can look at an animal that the Most High gave you power over and bow to it. You can kill it and eat it, but yet you're going to bow yourself down to it. Oh, it ate the grass and spit it out. It must be some kind of spiritual iguana. You see how foolish it is, how dumb it is? That you can look at a rock and say, wow, that rock is shaped like a thumb. It must be something special about it. That's a form of witchcraft in and of itself. I could take another stone and break that, and it ain't gonna do nothing. It ain't gonna retaliate.
Right.
What is stone gonna do? You break it. What is it gonna do? It's gonna be broken. But yet you bow yourself down to it.
Right. Right.
The only retaliation comes from the person. I'll tell you this much: if because I know a lot of people have these, especially down south. You had a little pedestal and you had the picture of Jesus on there. Mm-hmm. You had a little picture of white Jesus, either he on the cross or he's standing there like, with the little thing. Mm-hmm. I bet you if you punched a hole through that picture, the only person that's going to retaliate was your grandma. Either that or she going to say, wait till your granddaddy get home. Or wait till your daddy get here. Wait till your mama get here. The retaliation didn't come from that picture, did it? Picture didn't get up and slap you, did it? Because idols are dumb. They can't do anything. It's witchcraft. Let's drop down to verse 15.
Verse 15?
Mm-hmm.
All right. 1 second.
Right there.
Oh, verse 15. Verse 15. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers.
See, that's what came next. The images came first. Then there was more images. And now you reject your God. And then what do? Read.
And his testimonies, which he testified against them. Mm-hmm. And they followed vanity and became vain and went after the heathen that were around about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them, that they should not do like them.
So we see here, you see the order of operations, how it happens the same way every time. Starts with an image, and the practices that come with the heathen that are made with those images, right? And then we forget our covenant, right? That's the first thing that goes. The first thing that goes is the covenant they made with our forefathers. Mm-hmm. What was that covenant? You keep the law, and I'll bless you. I'll continue to keep my power on you, right? Mm-hmm. You do what I tell you to do, and I'll make you the most powerful nation on earth. That's always the first thing to go. The covenant is the first thing to go. Then you go and follow after vanity. The vanity that came with who? The heathens that are round about. You see the heathen out here. Oh, look, he's got a crystal ball. Mm-hmm. That looks fun. I mean, it's crazy because we're like children. Israel's like children. Mm-hmm. We have the best thing over here, but since we see somebody else walking over here with this, it's like, oh, well, that's unique. Right. Let me go try that. The Most High gave you all the Jordans. He gave you all the pair of Jordans, but you see somebody out here walking with some Jesus ones on their feet, and you're like, wow. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It don't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but that's the mentality of our people. We want what somebody else has. We didn't need a king. We had God. We're the only nation that had God as our ruler. Right? The only ones. Mm-hmm. But we see another nation roll out to battle with the king, and we're like, we want that. Forgetting the fact that God just had you destroy that nation that rolled out there with a king. Mm-hmm. You see the backwards thinking of us. It's like, listen, we have God as our king. They have a man as their king. We just destroyed them in battle. Hey, guys, think we might get a king?
Wow.
It's foolish. It's foolish. Go ahead and continue reading.
Verse 16. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images.
And that's always what comes last. The commandments they're always, I mean, throughout this whole process, I'm going to keep the Sabbath still. I'm going to still keep the Sabbath. Live like hell the rest of it, but I'm going to be down on the Sabbath. The commandments go out the window. Now all of a sudden you ain't doing none of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Read.
And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images, even 2 calves. And
Did it again. Did it again. You see how Yahweh keep coming back? Yahweh back again. He makes another appearance. Read.
And made a grove and worshiped all the hosts of heaven.
Whoa. What did we learn about in part 1? The fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
The hosts of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Look at who they're worshiping here. They're worshiping angels.
That's right.
They started worshiping angels. Read.
And worshiped all the hosts of heaven and served Baal.
So they're worshiping the sun. They worship anything, all the angelic forces. They were worshiping. Oh, look at the sun. Look at the moon. Look at the stars. Look at that. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Look at that tree over there. It grew. Let's worship that too. Read.
Verse 17. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire.
Remember how I said that? Yeah, I'll be okay with you sacrificing a calf every now and then. I'll be okay with that. But eventually, I'm gonna need you to give me what I want. They did what?
Well, verse 17. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord.
And sold themselves. Now I want to touch on a couple of things. What kind of witchcraft is it? What kind of spell do you have to be under for you to have a child? And I'm sorry, but it's very rare that a person has a child and doesn't have a deep love for that child. Right? You have a child, right? This is a piece of you. And something requires you and says, hey, kill your child. I want it. I want its blood. What kind of spell is that for you to be able to give your child up willingly? What kind of spell is that? That a God says, hey, give me your child, and you don't say, hey, there's something wrong with that.
Wow.
Raise your hand if you would readily do that. See? But our people in this time period, this particular, see, everything leading up to this moment, they've compromised so far up to this moment that this thing meant nothing. This is just another thing that I'm doing. It becomes normal. Well, most likely, if I have a child, it's probably going to have to be sacrificed anyways. I have 2 children that weren't required. They passed through the fire, but they were just turned over to Satan. They're being used by Satan. But I knew at some point I would have a child that would need to be sacrificed. So I have 4 of them anyways. It says that they caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire and use divination and enchantments and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Most High to provoke him to anger. Right? They sold themselves. Remember what a voodoo priest is. Remember what we looked at in part 1. A servant of the spirits. You sold yourself. You've allowed yourself to become a vessel that is used. It's like, listen, if you give me what it is that I want carnally, if you give me fame, if you give me money, if you give me notoriety, if you give me wisdom, I'll let you use my body. That's a sale. If that spirit gives you what you want, and you give them what they want, that is an exchange. That's purchased your soul. You sold yourself, right? A servant of the spirits. Now, keep in mind, there's two aspects of having your child pass through the fire. There's the physical aspect of a sacrificing, a physical sacrificing, but there's also you yielding your child over to do the will of the devil. Keep in mind, the Most High requires, as we went over last week in the lesson on the Day of Atonement, the Most High requires a soul for a soul, right? If you sinned and you're worthy of death in that time period, in the time of Moses, if you sinned and you're worthy of death, it required something to be sacrificed, an animal to be sacrificed, the soul of an animal, soul for soul. The Most High didn't operate with that human sacrifice thing. See, but Satan being a copycat says, you know what, the Most High doesn't require a human sacrifice, but you know what, I do. So, you know what? If you decide that you want to get out of pocket one day, we made this agreement, and you decide that you want to step out and act crazy and decide, hey, I don't want to serve you. I don't want to go through with this deal that we made. You know what? After I make your life a living hell, and you decide to come crawling back to me, you owe me a soul. You owe me a soul. So it's either going to be your life or one of those kids you got there. And I promise you, they're going to serve me. And if they try to do the same thing, I'm going to require a soul of them. It's a cycle. You never get out of it. For those now, if you saw the interview that we did with Miss Ruby, all of this is starting to make sense. This is not new. Israel was practicing. That's why voodoo priests are able to say this is a practice that is as old as time. This is the oldest practice. It is. They can say that with confidence because it is. Israel's been doing it for a long time. This isn't new to us. That's why notice when people of any nation needs something done on a spiritual side as far as exorcism and different things like that, who do they come to? Us. They go to Levi. They go to the Haitians. They have the longest history with it. Right. They've mastered this. It's like, listen, can't nobody do it like them. Right. Not to mention we're the most spiritual people on earth. Right? If we're not attached to our God, we're attached to some spirit. We're attached to some force. Right?
Right.
So as we see here, right, the idols we create, now along with the idols came wicked practices, right? And along with those, and a part of those wicked practices were sacrifice. That was a huge part of it. Soul for soul. You have to pay me something. You have to give me something. The difference between the Most High and Satan is that what the Most High gives is free. See, even Zepho was a wicked man. Zepho was the grandson of Esau. Zepho was a wicked man, but Zepho prayed to the Most High to win a battle, and guess what the Most High did? He fought on his side. He won that battle. But the Most High didn't require anything of Zepho. Not only was Zepho doing according to the will of the Most High, Zepho had an empire to build. And that empire would go on to be the Roman Empire, the one that would conquer us later. It was fulfilling prophecy. So obviously what Zepho was doing was on the side of was according to the will of the Most High, right? But the Most High fought that battle, even though he was a wicked man. But he didn't require anything of him. Anytime you approach something where they say in order for this God to do something for you, you have to do something for it. See, all the Most High requires of our people is to keep the law. When you go to a voodoo priest and say, hey, well, I have to deal with it. Well, for this particular situation, you're going to need this God. It needs either it's going to need your soul, or you got to give a bottle of rum. Every time the thing runs out of rum, you got to supply. Right. It's going to need your body. This particular God likes to eat. This particular spirit likes to eat. It's going to need your body. Right? See, these guys continue to plague Israel and Judah, even into the times of Jeremiah. I'm going to give you all of it. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 33.
Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 33. And they have turned unto me the back and not the face. Though I taught them, rising up early and teaching them, yet they have not hearkened to receive instruction. But they set their abominations in the house, which is called by my name, to defile it.
Remember that taking the Most High's name in vain? That's not talking about speaking the name of the Most High. We're supposed to speak the name of the Most High. But taking his name in vain is when you take him and you apply it to something else. If you made a golden calf and you were calling that golden calf Ahia, you've taken his name in vain. Check out what 34 says. It says, but they set their abominations in the house, right? They set these idols in their house, which is called by my name, read, to defile it.
Verse 35, and they built the high places of Baal, which were in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire unto Moloch.
Unto Moloch, read.
Which I commanded them not. Neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin.
So now it's Judah. Right? You have Israel. Israel did it. They got displaced. Now it's Judah. See how it's continuing to follow us? But notice what it's starting off with. It's always starting off with an image. Take their images, put them in the Most High's temple. Take their images and apply the Most High's name to them. Oh, this is a feast unto your God. This is a feast unto Ahia. But eventually we're going to unveil that that's not even the God that you're serving. Sort of like what the Roman Empire did, where they took all of their statues, statue of Jupiter, Venus, and they said, well, that's not Venus anymore. That's the Virgin Mary. That's not Jupiter anymore. That's God. That's not Zeus anymore. That's Christ. Or Peter. See, we know who it is that we're bowing to. I know that I'm bowing to Jupiter, but you don't know that.
Right.
You think you're bowing to Virgin Mary, even though you ain't supposed to bow yourself down to anything. Not supposed to bow yourself down before a man to serve him, right?
That's right.
I mean, see that? The same, the trick is the same. The practices are the same. There is nothing new under the sun. This stuff that they're doing back then, same stuff that we've always been doing. Right? Voodooism and magic are deeply ingrained into Israel's culture due to the fact of our interactions and close relation with the heathen. Right? Because we were so close and buddy-buddy with these wicked nations, we took on their tendencies. We started to adopt things. Whether it had been through relations, like foreign relations, trade, and different things like that, or if it was through captivity, which we saw a lot of. A lot of the gods that we received through captivities. Keep in mind, when you enslave a nation, one of the first things that were done is they take your God and they give you theirs. And another thing that's done is usually ethnic cleansing. Who knows what ethnic cleansing is?
Ethnic cleansing when they basically try to sleep with the women and get their sons. Yeah.
This is something that was practiced a lot, right? Because keep in mind remember what we went over last week in the Day of Atonement. What is the spirit? What is the blood? It's your spirit. It's your life. So if you take in the spirit of a wicked man, right? And you have a bloodline that the Most High has designated, right? This is a special bloodline. This is a special spirit. And you mix the two, what do you get? Confusion.
Right.
Confusion. That's what it is.
That's right.
Right? Now you've created a conflict inside of this new generation who doesn't know whether they're this or that. Am I white or am I black?
Yeah.
Right? And when it comes and when it comes time for you to make a move, when it comes time for you to pick a side, it's much harder for you to pick a side than it would be for one who's all the way black or all the way white. Right? Especially when you're dealing with one, well, my father was white, my dad was, my father was white, my mom was black. Right? My father, he was wicked. My mother was righteous. Imagine where the conflict comes in there. Can you guess? Well, my father was a stone cold Satanist. My mom was a big time Jesus lover.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
One moment.
Can everyone hear us okay? Can everyone hear us okay? Put a yes or no in the chat for me, please. Okay. Okay, good. They can hear us. Okay. You can carry on. I had to switch to the other microphone.
Oh, okay. Can you imagine what the conflict is? Where the conflict comes in there? You can guess, right? So whether it was with our interactions through trade, whatever the case may be, or through captivity, which is where the real distancing from our God came, right, through those captivities, we adopted the customs of voodooism and magic and attached them to ourselves. Right. So these people who are practicing things like magic and mysticism, right? People who are what do you call it? Those New Age people, what Egyptologists and Black conscious community, right? They say, oh, we can do voodoo. That's something that our people have been doing for generations. It's way back in our history. Does that make it right? Because we see here that but they come back at us with the issue, right? They come back at us with the issue. But isn't righteousness also in our history as well? Our ancestors practiced righteousness. So, what is your real issue?
That's a good question.
Because you're saying, well, our ancestors practiced voodoo. So why what's wrong with me practicing voodoo? Well, our ancestors also served the God of the Bible. So what's your issue with that? Right. See, the issue doesn't amount to it doesn't the issue isn't what we served in our history. The issue is what it is that you want to do. It's about the freedoms to do what you want to do. All right, let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20.
1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would that ye should that ye should have fellowship with devils.
So we aren't even supposed to associate ourselves. That YouTube camera. I'm guessing.
Oh, the camera stopped again. Okay.
You want to switch over?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's.
All right, everybody. One moment. We're going to take a brief intermission and come back to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20.
Can everybody see and hear us okay?
We're good. We're good.
Okay, good. You go ahead, carry on. I don't want to the restroom. I'll read the scripture.
Okay. I'll take care of it. You can go ahead.
No, I got it.
So go ahead and read 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20.
All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
Okay. So let's get the basic understanding of the scripture. Who did the Most High give his laws, statutes, and commandments to? He gave them to Israel. That's Psalms chapter 147, verse 19, right? He gave his laws, his statutes, and his judgments unto Israel, right? Mm-hmm. So we should know as a nation that anything that's coming from outside of Israel is not coming from the Most High.
That's right.
It says the things to which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, not to God, right? So anything that's coming from any other outlet is not the Most High. Think about it. Christianity comes from the Roman Catholic Church, from Esau. Islam comes from the Arabs. Not the that's an Arab. That's from a Gentile nation, right? That's from a heathen nation, right? You got Hinduism. That comes from India. That is not from our people. You got Buddhism. That comes from the Chinese. That is not from our people. You see how? But these are the religions that we're scattered under, right? These are Gentile nations. Therefore, why are we taking heed to them rather than to our own book? A book that's why have we made them the authority over our book? Right? See, here's the thing: is our people have subconsciously discredited our own people. We can't hear truth unless it comes from something outside of us. Right? A black person wouldn't believe from me. A lot of black people wouldn't believe from me that they're Israelite until a white person says so. Mm-hmm. See, if you allow them to be your spiritual authority, when they haven't been given the law, statutes, and commandments we were, then what have you automatically done? You've made yourself subservient to them. If you are a Muslim, you are subservient to Arabs. They are your spiritual authority. Therefore, they are your authority. If you are a Roman Catholic, you are subservient to the Roman Catholic Church. You are subservient to a Gentile nation. If you are a Buddhist, you are subservient to the Asians, to the Chinese. You are that is not something that you or your people govern. You are being ruled by another nation. Therefore, you are in slavery, another form of captivity.
That's right.
Right? If the laws, statutes, and commandments were given to our people, right? If they were given to the children of Israel, then why are you looking? Why is it that you can't heed to the words that your own people say? The people who are given that knowledge from the Most High. No, you need confirmation from another nation to make sure that what we're saying is true. And it's a shame that we as teachers have to operate that way. See, we as teachers, we would like to use only our sources. But if we used only our sources, then what would be the rebuttal from other people, from our people? Wow. Well, that's a black source. So obviously they would say that. Let me hear it from a white man. Right? Because they're the smart ones. Mm-hmm. Right? For this reason, right? See, the scriptures say that the heathen sacrifice to the devils and not to God. For this reason, any practices led or created by the heathen cannot be trusted by our people. Flat out. Flat out. Right? One moment. right?
Right.
Let's get Leviticus chapter 20, verse 2.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 2. Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Moloch, he shall surely be put to death.
Look at the judgment for that. If you now keep in mind, it says giveth any of his seed over to Moloch. This in this particular sense is speaking of allowing your child to be used by the devil. Right? You turned your child over, you giving that spirit legal right over your child. Right? That means that this child, they can use this child in whatever way that they please.
Right.
Anyone who does that should be put to death. Read.
What it says. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people because he hath given of his seed to Moloch to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name.
Now, check that out. Watch the immediate connection he makes. See, a lot of people will look at this and say, how does giving your child over to Moloch defile the sanctuary and profane his holy name? Well, remember what happened in the last times when we looked at Kings, at the book of Kings, and we looked at Deuteronomy. What was the first thing that suffered because of the children of Israel going off and giving their seed to Moloch? What did they do? They set idols in the temple. They set up idols in the temple, right? So the first thing that always went was the temple. That's what happened every single time. It was always the temple in the Most High's name that suffered. Because what are you doing? You're surrendering the next generation. The next generation are the ones who are supposed to rule when you're gone.
Right.
So once you're dead, once the rest of the righteous are dead, what's left? Wickedness. Take Esau's children, for example. Take Cain's children, for example. What did it say? In each generation waxed worse. That means that the third generation from Cain and the third generation from Esau was worse than the original than the original evil itself. Esau was scared of his children. Read it in Joshua. Esau, y'all who read Joshua, y'all know Esau was scared of his children, terrified of them. They threatened him. They said, "Listen, if you don't go down here to fight your brother's children, we gonna kill you." And guess what Esau did? He went right down. His children were just as bad as he was. Children waxed worse. And this is what the Most High put in place to prevent that from happening. He's like, listen, this next generation isn't going to suffer because of what y'all are doing. So you know what? If you find somebody trying to do this or doing this, I want you to kill them. Kill them.
Wow.
Let's get verse 4.
Verse 4. And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man.
Whoa. Conspirators. People I ain't see it. That's him, not me. I ain't gonna say nothing. You better get right with God. I ain't gonna say nothing, but you gotta take that up with the Most High. That's on you. I ain't gonna tell nobody. But you got something. If anybody in any way hides their eyes from this man, you say, well, I ain't gonna tell nobody, but you got to get right with the Lord. Or I didn't see it. I'm act like I ain't see it. I ain't gonna. That's you. I ain't gonna. That's you. That's your business. Guess what? You're a conspirator.
That's right.
Read.
When he giveth of his seed unto Moloch and kill him not.
So if this man isn't dead, you're a conspirator. Because guess what? You're responsible for the deaths that come after.
That's right.
That means that the children that are actually sacrificed and killed, that blood is on your head. Right? It's like you see somebody get raped. You know who it was. You act like you ain't see it. And another person falls victim to that same person who did the raping. You're a conspirator.
Wow.
No matter how you want to think about it. You're a conspirator. You were a part of that situation. because you saw and you didn't do anything about it. Here, what you were supposed to do is stone the man with stones.
Right.
Read.
Then will I set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him to commit whoredom with Moloch.
So all of you, the one who hid his face from him, and the ones who were going in secret to partake in what he was doing. Hey, you got the gout. Go see that brother over there. He can help you out. I'm just sneak over there in the middle of the night, get a little something for my feet, right? that you too, right? It says, and all that go whoring after him, all those who go to this, because keep in mind, most likely a person who's offering his child to Moloch is a what? He's a priest. So that means it's not just him offering his own children. He's offering other people's children. He's the priest that everybody goes to.
Right.
Hey, you need some help. Go to that brother over there. He know what he's doing. Read.
And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits.
Now, what is a familiar spirit? Now, what we look at, when you look at the Hebrew word in that word familiar spirit, it means bottle. It means a bottle or a wineskin. Now, what do bottle or wine skins do? They hold in something, right? So if you're a consultant of familiar spirits, what are you? You're a vessel. You're a jar. Right? Yeah, that means that you hold spirits.
Right.
You allow spirit. You exactly. You house, because keep in mind, when you see in these movies, these people are like, oh, I want to talk to such and such. And the person does this weird convulsion thing, and then they come back and they're speaking to you in the voice or in the personality of the person that you lost. They've allowed that spirit to inhabit themselves and use them. That is a consulter of familiar spirits. See the way the scripture sort of, I love the way it put it like that, because I was expecting to find something different, but I saw a bottle. I'm like, what does that mean? And then I was like, okay, so what's the use of a bottle? I literally sat here for like 45 minutes thinking about it. I'm like, okay, what's the use of a bottle? Why is bottle the word there? And I realized, I was like, oh, shoot, a bottle holds things. It holds stuff.
Right.
So this particular person, a consultant with familiar spirits, has a series of spirits housed inside of themselves. Right? Read from the beginning of verse 6.
Verse 6. Okay. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, and go a whoring after them. I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut them off from among his people.
You're dead. This is how serious the Most High was about this situation. Because keep in mind, this is not something that was isolated. This is not an isolated incident where you got one person and ain't nobody else dealing in it. It's not how this works. Because now you have people, you have this priest who's doing something, and they see, and somebody goes to them and sees, oh, what this guy is doing is working. And then what do they go do? You know, black people, I'm gonna go tell my friends. let me go tell my boy about this dude over here. And then he like, oh, for real? He did that for you? And all you had to do was what? Oh, I'll be down there tomorrow. And then what does he do? He go tell a friend. And then they go tell a friend. And then next thing you know, what do you got? The word spreads. Hey, hey, you know what Eddie Murphy said? He said, eating is good, don't stay a secret for long. That's exactly what it is here. It's like, oh, hold up, it's working. Let me go down here. Let me go tell my friends. We're gonna all come in and get this. Right? And that's what happens. Now you got a whole nation that's committing the same sin. A whole nation falls in weeks.
Right.
And guess what? When those same heathen that dwell amongst us, when they start seeing idols popping up, guess what they're seeing? You're seeing just an idol. You're seeing a God. But guess what they're seeing? Vulnerability. Oh, you're weak. You're destitute of your God. Just like that.
Just like that.
They got you. You fallen. Because now they see that as a permit. Oh, I got a lot. Oh, so since you're without your God, I know according to your law that if you're without your God, I'm permitted to act. I can do whatever I want to you. Most High don't got his hand here no more.
Right.
So and that's when Israel starts getting slaughtered. That's when it happens. Right? The Most High speaks specifically of Israel and those nations living in the land, not allowing our children to be given to Moloch, right? This was to prevent new generations of sinners from rising and profaning the temple, right? It's interesting that the Most High placed so much emphasis and so much importance on this particular issue, but Israel cared nothing for it. See, obviously, this had to be something that was an issue for Israel because it had to be placed in the law. Mm-hmm. Being this specific, right? It had to be placed in the law. Clearly, this was an issue that we didn't. For us, it was like, okay, another. Because keep in mind, we became a nation. We grew. We became a nation in a country of many gods that served many gods. So for us, it was something that was like, hey, this is what we do,
right?
The Most High had a firm stance against this particular thing, but our people throughout our history cared nothing for it. Wow. Let's get Leviticus chapter 3, for chapter 19.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God.
It says, regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards. I think that's pretty clear. Let's get Deuteronomy 18.
Deuteronomy 18, verse 9. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of these nations. There shall not be found among you anyone maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter of familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer.
So it says here, these are all, keep in mind, these are all practices of the heathen. This is not something that the Most High came up with, right? He said, listen, all of this stuff that you see them doing, don't deal with that, right? Don't learn the stuff don't learn the practices and the abominations of those nations. And then he goes on to list every last one of them, all of which we're doing today. Oh, what's your zodiac sign? What's your zodiac sign? Oh, I'm just gonna go get a palm reading. Can you get some tarot cards? You do tarot readings, right? Oh, can you tell? I'm gonna go to a psychologist. Oh, can you tell me my future? I'm gonna meet a new person today. Right? This is all stuff that we do. And we don't even realize that we're doing it. Going on Facebook and doing those tests. What superhero are you?
I didn't think about that one. Yeah.
See, and I'm not even gonna lie. That had me fooled for a long time. I was doing those tests too.
Right.
And then I sat back and I thought about it, and I was like, hold up, something ain't right about this. The Most High said, hey, look into that. And I looked into it and I said, hold up, this is divination. This is witchcraft. AI is witchcraft. Wow. What superhero are you? Based off of your personality.
Right.
What kind of house are you gonna live in? what kind of this or what kind of that? Who are you in this or who are you in that?
What color is your soul?
You see how deep this goes and how and how intricate it is, and people don't realize that what it is.
Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Answer these questions, and I can tell you what your zodiac sign is. Crazy, isn't it? Or that they can take your zodiac sign and figure out what your whole personality is, what you're like, and you just sitting there like, oh, I can't believe it. It was right. Well, duh. These are spirits. Right? Right?
Yeah.
It comes across so innocent.
That's right.
It comes across so innocent. Like when you're watching these movies, these princess movies and different things like that, you're seeing all this Maleficent. You got all of these different things, you know, in all these movies, and the subconscious, you don't realize what it is. Bestiality and Beauty of the Beast. That's bestiality.
Wow.
I mean, and we're desensitized to it. Go ahead and continue reading.
Verse 12. For all that do these things are an abomination to the Lord.
All, read.
And because of these abominations to the Lord, thy God doth drive them out of the land before thee.
He said to get them out the land, didn't he? Mm-hmm. We didn't do that. Oh, this guy he's a nice guy. I know him and his family. He's a good dude. I know him. I know him real well. He seems like he's a great guy. I know he's an atheist, and I know he does all of the sage and all that kind of stuff. I know about all that, but he's a good guy. So you know what? We ain't gonna worry about it.
Yeah.
Just keep your stuff to yourself, and we're gonna do what we do, and we're all good. Next thing you know, that great guy has you doing everything that he's doing. You know, I mean, don't worry about it, man. Just come on over, and I'll get you something for that gout on your foot. Oh, your daughter has bad cycles. Oh, I can get you something for that. Come on. This is all you got to do. Just take this and you wrap it up in that. You know, place it there. Somebody gonna pick it up. Gone. Hands are clean of it. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and continue reading.
Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God.
Now that word perfect also translates to righteous. Read.
Verse 14. For these nations which thou shalt possess.
Now keep in mind, these are things that we're supposed to possess. Mm-hmm. These people were supposed to serve us. Remember what I said earlier. What kind of witchcraft can have you serving your servant? Have you bow down to your servant? Mm. We were given power over the animals. We were made greater than the animals. We were made greater than the angels. But we bow ourselves down before them. What kind of witchcraft is that? Mm. We were given power and dominion over the other nations. Like I said, keep in mind how they viewed us back then. When we were under our God and we were under full strength and in line with our God, we were like gods on earth to those people. Mm-hmm. We dressed nice. We were clean. Right. We didn't eat the same things that they ate. We were stronger than other people. We're faster than other people. We're smarter than other people. We still are, but not to the level as what we were before. Mm-hmm. But like I said, if they can sneak in something and cause our nation to fall to the same thing, idolatry, the same thing, vulnerability. Right. We got them. It's the same thing. Go back to slavery. The fact that they were able to come into West Africa, not West Africa. We're keep in mind we're some of the strongest. Now keep in mind we also outnumbered them. It's not like these people came on these ships with like 50 and 60 people getting 40 people in the tribe. No. This was about maybe at most probably 30 men going in and taking hundreds of people, of our people. Keep in mind the slave plantations. You had at most maybe a family of 7, white family of 7 with hundreds of slaves. Yeah. What kind of witchcraft is that? You got a brother as big as brother Isaac right here, be able to lift a barrel and throw it and all that kind of stuff, all this strength and everything like that. But brothers that size and bigger in slavery, but you got a white dude, skinny, only can pick up a pencil, telling that brother what to do, beating him with it, beating him with everything he can beat him with, and that brother does nothing. What kind of witchcraft is that? Wow. Go ahead and read.
Verse 14. For these nations which thou shalt possess, hearken unto observers of time.
This is what they do, read.
And unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee to do so.
He said, listen, they go to witches and warlocks. They do all that stuff. This is not what I did for you. What did I get? What did he give us? Read.
Verse 15. And the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from amongst the midst of thee. Mm-hmm. of thy brethren, like unto me, unto whom, unto him ye shall hearken.
So he even gave us a prophet to go to. He said, listen, because keep in mind, they're probably like I said earlier, it's like, well, this brother, he can get me healed of my gout. I can do this and I can get whatever issues that we had, we took to the prophet, and the prophet handled those issues. Right. So if our prophet can do the same things righteously, according to righteousness that the heathen do, what's your point in going to the heathen? Right? I wrote here, the Most High left no loopholes when it comes to those who use magic spirits to manipulate the physical world or to gain knowledge. He left no loopholes. If you wanted to learn, if you wanted to get knowledge, you went to our prophet. If you needed to be healed of something, you went to our prophet. There was nothing that somebody who's operating in wickedness with spirits could do that our prophet couldn't use through the Most High. That our prophet couldn't do through the Most High. God. But yet our people still went to the heathen. Wow. The Most High set up prophets for Israel, so there would be no need for Israel to seek knowledge from any other source than the righteous one. That's right. With the prophets present in ancient Israel, those who turned aside to the servants of spirits, voodoo priests, a voodoo priest, it was simply because the wickedness was already present in their hearts. Their desire was always to do wickedness.
That's right.
Right? See, our people often say that we're a victim of our environment. Right? We're a victim of our environment. We have no other choice, right? But if the Most High removed you from your environment and put you in a better one, how would your actions change?
Come on.
Good question.
Come on.
Because a lot of us, that's an excuse that we make, but when he puts you in a better position, you're still doing the same things. It's like, oh, well, I had to sell drugs when I had to sell drugs. You know, I ain't have no money. I had to feed my family. Well, now you're a big time rapper. You got all this money. What you still selling drugs for?
Come on.
That's
right. You have no excuse. Everything, all the reasons that you said were your reasons for doing what you're doing are shored up. What's your reason? It's the same thing here. The Most High said, listen, oh, we had to go and do. Well, no, I gave you a prophet. So why? Because the wickedness was already, your desire to do wickedness was already in you. Isaiah spoke this. Isaiah said it. Let's get Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19.
Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep, and that mutter.
So this is exactly what I just said. You know, a brother come up and say, hey man, you got the gout? That brother, that voodoo priest down the street, he got you. Isaiah says, and they shall say, and when they shall say unto you, seek them that have familiar spirits, or to a wizard. Read.
That peep and that mutter. Should not a people seek unto their God? Continue.
Why don't you go to your God? Right? And they say, oh, what? Go to a familiar spirit. It's like, listen, I got a God that I can go to. Why don't you go to your God? Read.
For the living to the dead, to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. The Most High gave you an option, but you still chose the wicked route. It's because there was already no light. All you needed, listen, you were waiting for that brother to come to you. You saw that voodoo priest walking up and down the street every day. And it's like, I don't want to approach him because if I approach him, it makes it seem like my desires. But if he comes to me and I say, well, I was peer pressure. Nah, you were waiting on that brother. He was like, oh, he's gonna approach me at some point, hopefully. you know, it's I didn't go to him. He came to me. It says your response should be, I can go to my God. That's right.
But no, it says, but it says you're a living, right? You're a living person. What is your need to consult with the dead?
Come on.
You're alive. What do you need to go to the dead for? What do you need knowledge from the dead for?
That's right.
That's right.
Right? It says, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. Your intent from the beginning was to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I was peer pressure. Oh, I had no other way. There was no other way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lie. The Most High gave us another way. Why do you think that when the scriptures say if you have an issue, you're supposed to take it before the elders? Go to the elders. Mm-hmm. The Most High, there's even more people who can help you with your issue here in this time than there was back then. He said usually it was a prophet. You had one prophet. Now you got 2 or 3 elders, 5 or 6 deacons, and 20 bishops, and you still can't do right? Oh, well, he was occupied, so I just had to take a trip down the street into that back dark alley with the star on the door and do some things. Like, no, you didn't have to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Seeking after necromancers, divinators, wizards, and etc. causes for us as a people to rely on these sources as opposed to God. I'm going to say that again. Seeking after necromancers, divinators, wizards, or voodoo priests, right, causes for us as a people to rely on these sources as opposed to God, as opposed to our God, right? Mm. This is one of the main reasons the children of Israel forgot their God and their identity. Wow. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 23.
Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 25. I have heard what the prophet said, that prophesy lies in my name.
Now, are these righteous prophets? Read.
Saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed.
I have dreamed, I have dreamed. Read.
How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies?
Now, see how that's in his heart. This is something that's in his heart. Read.
Yea. They are prophets of deceit in their own heart.
They're prophets of the deceit of their own heart. Not the desire of the Most High, but of their own desire. Right? Now, often when we look at this connects directly to Dr. Martin Luther King in a lot of ways. Not only because of his I Have a Dream speech, but for his mission overall. Right? We know according to the scriptures that his particular desire, that was something that he wanted, not what the Most High wanted, right? Oh, for everybody to come together. The Most High said that we're supposed to be separate from the heathen. If the heathen didn't want to come and do the laws and do his laws amongst us, then they weren't with us. We didn't deal with them, right? Unless we were on one accord with our God, and they were with our God. We didn't have nothing to talk about. That was something that he wanted. That was a desire that he had. He said, I had a dream that we'll be able to do this and we'll be able to do that. We're white people and we're all equal. It says, how long shall this be in the heart of the prophets which prophesy lies? They are the prophets of the deceit of their own heart. But why is the Most High so against them? Let's read verse 27.
Verse 27, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal.
You've become reliant on an alternative source. And since you've become reliant on an alternative source, you're no longer connected to your God, which makes us what? Weak. We are vulnerable. And this is exactly what the nations want. See, if I can slip you a drug, I can take advantage of you. It's harder for me to take advantage of you when you're in your right mind, but I gotta, right? Keep in mind, that's exactly what Satan did. Satan's been doing the same thing. He did it in the garden. Remember what we went over in part 1. it was witchcraft. That fruit, that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, was witchcraft itself. It was a potion. And what was it supposed to do? It made Adam vulnerable. Before, Adam was incorruptible. The fruit made him corruptible. It made him vulnerable.
That's right.
He's never stopped using the same thing. He's used the same thing over and over and over again. And we continue to fall for it. It says that they have caused my people to forget my name by their dreams. Oh, well, you know what? I'm a divinator, right? I said it in the lesson on dreams and nightmares. There's a thin line between having a dream and being a divinator. Mm-hmm. There's a thin line, because most likely, if you have a dream that's in line with the scriptures, then you keep it with the scriptures. That's just the Most High speaking to you according to his word. But when you start claiming to predict the future, oh, I've seen this, or I've seen that, or this is what happened in my dream, you have crossed the thin line between the Most High speaking to you and being a divinator. So now you start going on YouTube, start telling people the dreams that you had. So I saw a dove, and the dove represents this. And then there was a fire, and the fire represents that. And then a green ribbon came from the sky. And guess what happened then? It all blew up. And let me tell you what it means. You start getting on here, and people are watching this like, oh, that's so deep. They type on the computer, that's deep. oh, this person know the future by their dreams. And all of a sudden, instead of going to the Most High's word, instead of praying, now you're going and tuning into this YouTube channel, because guess what? Their dreams had the answer. Mm-hmm. See, that's what, and that's partly what gets you, right? Because sometimes it's right. Mm-hmm. You may be right. Oh, well, it was right 3 times. Oh, it worked. And that's exactly where they get you. Right? The perfect scam is the one that doesn't scam you until the second or third time. It works one time. It works the second time. The third time, they're taking everything you exchange this for this amount of money. You exchange that for this amount of money. You made $10,000 on those first 2 tries, $15,000 on the first 2 tries. But then the third try, you go to do it again. All that money that you made before and everything else before that is gone. Perfect scam. The one that works is the one that gets you. Right. If you're going to an alternative source, it may work, but I promise it will come back to get you.
That's right.
Right? We picked these up in our captivities. We learned these things in our captivities. Let's get Deuteronomy 28, verse 68.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 64.
64, Slack.
Yeah, sorry. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
So we're scattered amongst all the people, all the nations, read.
From one end of the earth unto the other. Mm-hmm. And there thou shalt serve other gods, mm-hmm. which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Notice how the Most High wasn't connected to wood. He wasn't connected to stone either. We learned these things after being scattered. Remember, the 2 leading populations, right? Christianity stems directly from the Roman Catholic Church. So Roman Catholicism is number 1, right? Number 2, you have Islam. In Christianity, you have the wood, which is the cross. And in Islam, you have the Kaaba stone. I'm sorry, but if you taking a $3,000 trip to go to Mecca, and all you doing is walking around a rock, and you got to pay extra to kiss a stone, what kind of witchcraft is that? Because I promise you, if I took an axe to that Kaaba stone, it wouldn't retaliate. Oh. I know who would, though. The people would retaliate. What's he doing? I'll be hearing that in a bunch of different languages, and next thing you know, I'm getting attacked. But I promise you, it wouldn't be that stone that did nothing. Last time I checked, when the brother when the brother when they were carrying the Ark of the Covenant, he said not to touch it, and when it fell and he went to grab it, I'm pretty sure that was the Most High who killed him, right? The brother who was picking up sticks, dead.
That's right.
The people who decided to stand on the other side as opposed to Moses' side, the earth opened and swallowed them up. Mm-hmm. See, I have a God that'll actually do something. As opposed to yours. Your stone, if I kicked your stone and defamed it and all kind, it wouldn't do nothing. Because it can do nothing. It only has the power that you give it. And the power that you give it is witchcraft. It has for something that is not alive, that has something that is not alive, that has no bearing on your real life, can control you in such a way. It's witchcraft. You got anything?
On that right there, there's so much that we do in our everyday lives that's attached to witchcraft that we don't even, it's almost like muscle memory. It's just automatic. Mm-hmm. Things like reverse psychology. Oh, nobody really thought about that before, because the whole idea is to get someone to do something that you want them to do. Manipulation. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So these are huge things that we have to be on the lookout for, even within ourselves. Also, sowing discord. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's another one.
Bearing false witness,
absolutely. You know, so all these things we have to be careful of. That's why this tongue, this thing can light a fire. You know what I'm saying? We have to be careful what we do with this tongue. You know what I'm saying? If we're not careful, we can hurt people. We can cause much destruction. A whole city, I believe, was somewhere here in Florida, Rosewood. That town burned because of one lie that one lady told on one black man. You see what I'm saying? Set that whole city on fire. You see what I'm saying? So we have to be careful what it is we're allowing to come out of our mouth. We have to be careful what we're allowing to enter into our ears. Right? We have to consider the source when things come forth. Right? And understand, we spoke about this I think like a week or so ago. You have to listen to the spirit behind what you're hearing. It's not always what's being said. There's usually a spirit behind it. You see what I'm saying? So we have to watch out for these things. So again, just being mindful of what we're saying, why we're saying it, you know, and manipulation again, you know, and stay away from that thing called reverse psychology. Let your yay be yay and let your nay be nay. Follow what I'm saying? Be careful with the small foxes.
People who are in psychology go nuts. They do. Psychology, that's why it's very rare that somebody starts off in the major of psychology and finishes. Look at the graduating class of a psychology. You'll start off with a class of 50 to 60 people majoring in psychology, and there'll only be 17 of them that graduate. It messes you up here. It just does. You're manipulating other people, right? But it's doing something to you as well. There's a spirit behind psychology, right? There was something else I was thinking about. I lost it.
It'll come back.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, you look at it's the small things, right, that we don't even realize that we're doing in our daily lives, that we don't even realize are connected to magical practices and different things like that. Right. It's crazy because it's those little things. It's not even the big things that cause our people to fall. And piggybacking off what you just said, I just got it back. Right. The scriptures say that a man isn't to speak too much. A person who talks too much, a man who talks too much, the scriptures looks down on the man who talks too much. Why? Because when you talk too much, things come out of your mouth that you haven't thought about. You're supposed to sit and meditate. Be wise with the way that you use your mouth.
That's right.
So if you talk too much, you start saying the wrong things. You start telling lies, everything like that. And all these things start coming out of your mouth. You haven't considered.
That's right.
So if you were to walk in the community of a bunch of Israelites, you would see that men weren't quick to speak. Even if you sit like, unless you're dealing like a family function or something like that, and even in family functions, when we were at that African house party, there was a series of different kinds of brothers and sisters from Western Africa. How much were those men talking? Very little.
What goes along with that is it's a scripture. I can't call it chapter and verse, but he that answereth a matter before he hears it, to him it is folly. That's huge. We gotta be careful about the conversations we get drawn into, because you then start speaking stuff you don't really have knowledge about, and it can lead to other things. So that goes along with what you're talking about with talking too much.
Exactly, and that's something that we as a people are still learning. But it's easy to, when you come back to the law, when a man comes back to the law, it automatically being shown how to be a man, and it's being shown how to behave like a man. It makes you a man. You become more masculine than you were before, right? But it's learning how to behave in daily life that takes longer. It takes years, right? And I suggest that if you are a man, and even women, go and read the book of Ecclesiasticus. It'll show, like, I had no idea before I read Ecclesiasticus. Did you know it's rude when you open the door for somebody to speak to them at the door? You either let that person in or you step out. But it's rude to speak to somebody at the door, at the threshold. Oh, you see that? It's those things. Like you see, it's learning how in daily life how to deal in certain things, right, and how you're supposed to behave and how you're supposed to act according to the Most High, right?
That's right.
Let's get Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4.
Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever.
It was our going away from the Most High that caused us to discontinue from our heritage. Our God was the main thing that connected us to who we are, because a big part of who we are is our God. Israel doesn't exist without. What does Israel mean? Israel means prince of the power. So if we're not connected to the power, then we don't know who we are, because who we are is princes of the power. That's how we get discontinued from our heritage, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. Right? That's the reason why we disconnected from our heritage is because we disconnected from our God and attached ourselves to other gods. And since we attached ourselves to other gods, now we don't know who we are. We've forgotten who we are. All of our culture and all of who we were was connected to that one God. Right?
That's right.
We connected ourselves to these idols of wood and stone. And we continue to serve these same gods that we were serving back then today. I'm going to show you. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14.
Wisdom of Solomon, verse 14, verse 8.
Chapter 14.
Chapter 14? Oh, okay.
Chapter 14, verse 8.
Okay. Salakia. But that which is made with hands is cursed, as well it, as he that made it. Because he made it, and it being because it being corruptible was called God.
You got this rock that you're worshiping. Right? It says, but that which is made with hands is cursed, as well as he that made it. Right? Because he made it, and it, because it being corruptible, was called God. Read.
For the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto God.
Read.
Verse 10. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it.
So that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. Whoever sat up there and said, hey, guys, let's worship this Kaaba stone at Mecca. Yeah, you're going to get destroyed right along with your rock. Because I'm not even going to refer to it as to what they call it. It's just a rock. That's what it is. It's a rock. Read.
Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation. Because in the creature of God, they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise.
These idols that were devised by the Gentiles cause his righteous people to fall. Read.
For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
Hold up, read that again.
For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
What is spiritual fornication? We have a God, and we've committed and made a covenant with that God, and now we're going after other gods. It's like a marriage. You married me, so what are you doing out with this other person? Spiritual fornication, right? It says the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication. It starts with an image. Read.
And the invention of them, the corruption of life.
The corruption of life. If you can give honor to a stone, if you're giving honor to a stone, something that's not living, your behavior changes towards something that is living. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this. If you're in take for example, Castaway, when he was stuck on the island, right? And all he had to talk to for years was Spalding, a ball. When you finally get back amongst people who are living, your interactions aren't the same. It's harder to see that person as living because you've already attached yourself to something that isn't living.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it can be easy for you to look at a child, a living, breathing child, and sacrifice him. Because your sensitivity to life and death and living and not living is skewed. It's blurred. The lines are blurred. Read.
Verse 13. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 14. For by the vain glory of men they entered into the world.
By the vain glory of men have they entered into the world. Read.
And therefore shall they come shortly to an end.
Read.
For a father afflicted with untimely mourning.
He's giving an example here. How many of you know Cesar Borgia? Zephaniah, can you grab the book, The Borgias, off of the bookshelf? How many of you know Cesar Borgia? Everybody in here knows Cesar Borgia? Now, what I'm going to show you is that Cesar Borgia is the modern day portrait of who they claim Christ to be today. Right? I'm going to show you. Go ahead and read.
For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he hath made an image of his child soon taken away.
So, Cesar Borgia was in a homosexual relationship with Leonardo da Vinci, the one who painted the first picture of who was believed to be Jesus Christ. Right? Now, Cesar Borgia's father was the Pope at that time. Right? So he, being the vicar of Christ, had the authority to create an image. Right? What is that image? Read.
Now honored him as a god.
So he made this picture. He had this picture of his son, and he had Leonardo da Vinci paint a picture. But this picture of his son was now being honored as a god. Read.
I'm sorry, back a little bit. Now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man.
So this was a dead dude. This is just a regular guy. Actually, not even a regular guy. He was an assassin. The book Assassin's Creed was based off of this family. Poison people, killing people, all this kind of stuff. This is a wicked dude. But he takes this picture of his son, his son who was killed. And he says, you know what? They're going to reverence my son as a god. Read.
Let's see. Verse 16. Thus the process of time and ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
An ungodly custom. Go ahead and read that again.
I think I missed something. Go back a little.
It sounded like it.
Which was then a dead man. And delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices.
So now they made ceremonies and sacrifices to this image. What's happening here? Can somebody tell me what's happening here? They turned a man into an idol. Exactly. It's witchcraft. Read.
Verse 16. Thus, in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
Wow. An ungodly custom, right? This was something that was originally, it was something that some people did, but now it's being kept as a law. It's almost like you have to do this. You have no choice but to do this. Read.
And graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
Read.
When men could not honor in presence because they dwelt afar off, they took the counterfeit of his visage.
Whoa, what does counterfeit mean? Fake. What does visage mean? He took the counterfeit of his visage. They took the fake face of Christ and did what?
And they took a counterfeit of his visage from afar and made an express image of a king whom they honored.
So they knew that these particular people honored Christ. But these people can't see Christ now, can they? So I'm going to give you a face. I'm going to give you a face. It's the same thing. Oh, well, you know, you have the God, Israel has a God, right? But you can't see him. So you know what? I'm going to give your God an identity, something that you can see. Read.
To the end that by their forwardness, they might flatter him that was absent.
Who are they trying to flatter? This is a book called The Borgiers, right? It's a book about the history of the Borgier family, right? Now, when you go in this book, page 145, it shows you a picture of the Pope of Rome, Pope Innocent the Eighth, right? Pope Innocent the Eighth, right? This is Pope Innocent the Eighth. His real name is Rodrigo Borgia, father of Cesar Borgia, right? Also known as Alexander the Sixth, right? This is the Pope. Now, when you look at this image, right? This is his son, Cesar Borgia. That's his son, right? This is Cesar Borgia. Right there, right here. That's Cesar Borgia. Take a good look, right? Now, they use Cesar Borgia as a template to create who you know today as Jesus Christ. These are the original sketches of what Christ was supposed to look like. This is the original sketches of what you know today to be modern day Christ. Right there. Now I'm going to read this. It says 3 drawings by Leonardo da Vinci, believed to be of Cesar Borgia during his third campaign, suggest how his features coarsening during his later years. He used Cesar Borgia to create Christ, Jesus Christ, a fake image of Jesus Christ. You see how the Bible is so forward thinking. How meticulously it was put together. Y'all can look at that. How meticulously this was put together. It said you took a counterfeit of his visage from afar off so that you could flatter him who's afar off as if he were present. It's like, oh, well, we're going to worship this guy so we can make the Pope feel good. He ain't even here. Pope isn't even there. Go ahead and continue reading.
Verse 18. Also, the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition.
He did so well in painting this image and drawing this image. How couldn't it be real? Keep in mind, in the time of the Renaissance, during that time period, art had never been so detailed and so well done in that time period. So when you have an artist and an inventor, a man of prestige like Leonardo da Vinci paint such a detailed image, how can you not believe? Just like if you take a picture of something, it's like if you take a picture of something, if there's a picture of it, that's considered evidence, right? In that time period, a painting was considered evidence. It's like, oh, hold up. Like, for example, Darwin, Charles Darwin. He didn't have any actual pictures, any actual bones to prove his theory of evolution. He drew some pictures, and people was like, oh, evolution is a fact. We look at his old drawings. Had no evidence of bones whatsoever. No real evidence, no tangible evidence. But what he came up with, what he drew in his book was regarded as fact. Same thing here. This painting was done so well. It says the singular diligence of the artificer did help set forward the ignorant to more superstition. You look at this picture. Is his eyes following me? I promise. White Jesus is looking at me, y'all. Look. If I move this way, his eyes follow me. If I move this way, his eyes follow me. You better not touch that picture, or else lightning gonna strike you. They take care of the picture with so much care and love and tenderness. The picture, they have the cross all up in the church. It's honored and reverenced with such superstition. You better not do that in front of Jesus. Oh, we got a picture of Jesus. We got the picture of Jesus in the house. He see everything in here. You better not do no evil, because Jesus don't see it. He right there on the wall. Superstition. Done so well. The ignorant provoked the much superstition. Read.
Verse 19. For he, peradventure, willing to please one in authority.
Leonardo da Vinci wanting to please Roberto Gaugier. Right? Borgier, the Pope. Right? He wanted to please this man. So what did he do? Read.
Force all his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion. And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god.
This is God. Read.
Which a little before was but honored.
Read.
And this was an occasion to deceive the world.
It was an occasion to what?
Deceive the world.
Read.
For men, serving either calamity or tyranny, did ascribe unto stones and stocks the uncommunicable name.
You see that? All of this from an image. All of this. You did ascribe unto stones and the stocks of the incommunicable name. The incommunicable name. A stone. See the foolishness? See the foolishness? Go ahead and read verse 22.
Verse 22. Moreover, this was not enough for them.
It wasn't enough. Even after all of this, it still wasn't enough. After all of this evil they had done up to this point, it still wasn't enough. What did they need to do?
That they erred in the knowledge of God.
It wasn't enough that you erred in the knowledge of God. Read.
But whereas they lived in a great war of ignorance.
They lived in a great war of ignorance. That means that one is more ignorant than the other. And it's a battle of ignorance. Read.
Those so great plagues called they peace.
It says great plagues they called peace. Confusion. Right? You see the backwards thinking and the confusion? You got war, calamity, plagues going on. You got coronavirus going around the country. Oh, this is a time of peace. The country's never been better. You see the backwards thinking? It's a battle. It's a war of ignorance, foolishness. Oh, blacks are being killed all across the country. We're living in the greatest country on earth. You got brothers being killed in the streets, sisters being killed in the streets, being oppressed. Oh, we're living in the greatest country on earth. Witchcraft, people. Witchcraft. So great plagues called they peace. You see evil as good. Read.
Verse 23. For whilst they slew their children in sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies, or made revelings of strange rites.
So now it's revealing what the elite are doing. See, you think you're just celebrating Christmas. You think you're just painting some eggs. You think that I'm just dressing up to go get some candy. But this is what it says. while as they slew children in sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies, or made revelings of strange rites. Freemasonry, the rites of Freemasonry, child sacrifices that happen. Notice, there's majority of the times when children kidnappings, guess what time of year it happens around? Yes. Holiday season, from between Halloween to Christmas. That's when most children go missing. Did you know that? And guess where majority of them go missing at? Black communities. Guess what? Where? In California, Hollywood. Did you know Hollywood is one of even the name Hollywood? Did you know Hollywood is the main wood that's used in sacrifices and rituals and witchcraft? Look it up. He's revealed it right here. He not only did he reveal what they did with the fake face of Christ, but he also reveals what they're doing behind the scenes. That while as they slew their children in sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies, or made revelings of strange rites. Keep going. What else?
Verse 24. They kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled.
They kept lives nor marriages, even no more undefiled, right? You got children being molested and raped. Children no longer undefiled, no innocence. Marriages. It's not natural to be with one person. It's not natural. So you know what? I get an extra wife, you get another husband. We're going to just do all kinds of wickedness. Oh, an open marriage. Right? What is an open marriage? That's not marriage. Right? So even then the blasphemy and the confusion. It says they kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled. Read.
But either slew another treacherously, or grieved him by adultery, so that there reigned in all men without exception blood, manslaughter, theft, dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjury, disquieting of good men, forgetfulness of good turns, defiling of souls, changing of kind, disorder and
changing of kind. Guess what that is? Oh, you were born a man, but guess what? I'm gonna get a sex change. Don't call me Trevor, call me Casey. Oh, I'm not Brad anymore. I'm Dasha. Wickedness. Changing of kind. Read.
Changing of kind, disorder in marriages. Adultery. And shameless uncleanness. For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning of the curse and the end of.
Read that part one more time. The beginning and the. Well, actually, I'm gonna go over that real quick. It says disorder in marriages. Sirach says that one of the greatest things that he sees in his eyes is a husband and wife that agree together. And not only is it one of the most powerful things, but it's also one of the most beautiful things. And this time, those don't exist. Come on. It says, so that reigned in all men without exception, blood, manslaughter, theft, dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjury, all of this lawlessness and wickedness. But you know what? We call it peace. All of this wickedness and all this evil going around. And we can't even realize that it's evil and wickedness. What kind of witchcraft is that? Right? Go ahead and read verse 27. This is where it gets deep. Pay close attention to this scripture.
Verse 27. For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil.
Remember how I said at the beginning of this lesson that we're going to take an unorthodox route, but don't worry, we're going to bring it full circle? the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil is the worshiping of idols.
Right.
All of it goes right back to an image. People are saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter about the painting of Christ." It don't. It don't. The beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil begins with the worshiping of idols. That's why we keep ending up in this same situation. It always begins with an idol. Voodooism connected to idols. Magic connected to idols. All these religions that we're looking at in the earth are connected to an idol. Every last one. Right?
All right.
Read.
Verse 28. For either they are mad when they be merry, or prophesy lies, or live unjustly, or else lightly forswear themselves.
It says, for either they are mad when they be merry, or prophesy lies, or live unjustly. Go ahead and read verse 29.
Verse 29. For insomuch as their trust in idols, which have no life, though they swear falsely, yet they look not to be hurt.
He's saying you want to worship these idols, stick so closely to these gods that are connected to these idols, but you don't want to be destroyed. Keep in mind what the scripture said earlier. There's going to be a visitation for all idols in the hands that created them. He's saying, listen, you want to worship these idols, but you don't want the consequence that comes with them. Go ahead and read. Oh shoot, I came all the way back up to the top. Hold up. Right?
Mm-hmm. But you want to drop down to Jeremiah?
Go ahead there real quick. I want to get this. It says, knowing that the beginning of all evil is idolatry, right? The worshiping of idols. When we examine the religions that we're scattered among today, keep in mind Deuteronomy 28 and 64. They all have a direct connection back to idolatry, right? Christianity has the what? The cross, wood. Islam has the Kaaba stone, a rock. Roman Catholicism, they have their statues of the saints, but we all know those aren't really saints because these existed prior to the existence of our. These are Jupiter and all, and Zeus and all of them. Those statues were prior to the Roman nation becoming Christian. Or becoming Christian. They have their idols. The Vatican is nothing but idols. That's what it's known for. You go there to see the statues, to see the graven images. They got a big old Easter egg. There's a big old egg. I mean, you worship. I don't even know. Like you worshiping an egg. An egg. Like a chicken egg. An egg. I mean, Buddhism. They have statues of Buddha. That's an image. Hinduism. They have altars with a bunch of gods on them. All of these main religions that our people are scattered under are directly connected to magic and voodooism. It all begins with an image. All evil begins, it's the cause, the end of all evil, all wickedness, right? Wisdom of Solomon said that these devising and worshiping of idol creates backwards thinking as it pertains to calling plagues peace. Goes to 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 25, right? It says that we will call plagues peace. That's backwards thinking, isn't it? To be able to say, oh, well, marriage is a commitment between two people, right? Well, I want to have an open marriage. It's backwards thinking, isn't it? Don't make sense. A marriage is a commitment between two people, but you want to bring more people in. That's not marriage. It's not marriage. Right? 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 25. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you one bullock for yourselves and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods. but put no fire under. So he's saying, I want you to, this is what you're going to do, and I want you to call to your gods, right? Verse 26. And they took the bullock, which again was given, and they dressed it, and they called on the name of Baal from the morning even until noon, saying, Baal, hear us. Not there, but there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leapt upon the altar which was made. Verse 27. And it came to pass that Elijah mocked them and said, Cry aloud, for he is a god. Neither is he talking, or he is pursuing. He is in a journey, or a peradventure he sleepeth, and must be well waked. He's picking on them. He's like, oh, he's a god. He ain't answering, but maybe he's asleep. Maybe he's somewhere on a trip. Y'all, wake him up. He's up there. It's like, listen, you guys are looking like idiots up here, right? Verse 28, it says, and they cried aloud. They're still going. They've been doing this all day, and they're still going. They decided to keep going. They cried aloud and cut themselves with their manner, with knives and lancers, till blood gushed out upon them. They're trying to summon this god with blood, cutting themselves. Wow. And it came to pass when midday was past, they prophesied unto the time of the offering and to the evening sacrifice, and there was neither a voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. Backwards thinking.
Wow, look at that.
Well, you sat there all day calling for your God, looking at a rock, trying to get a rock to speak.
Wow.
Imagine screaming at look at that lamp right there. Imagine if I was screaming at the lamp, Deuce, speak. I'm looking stupid. I worship you every day. Now I need you to speak. Or me talking to a counter, telling the counter, I've been worshiping this counter, and I need you to speak now. See how backwards that is? Y'all would put me in a cuckoo house for that. Like, hey, I just love that sofa. You know what? Let's deify it. It's a shame. It's stupid.
It is.
All things full circle when we examine the history of voodoo and magic amongst our nation, even until now, it comes back to the idols that were given to Israel in captivity and that we adopted by leaving the nations that we're supposed to expel in the first place. Right? These fallen angels, they revealed this knowledge and these magical practices prior to the flood in the days of Noah, of our forefather Noah. These were the same things that that brought on the flood. These same exact practices. The changing of kind, the murdering, blood, sacrifices. All of this was happening in the time of Noah. All of it. Right? And ignorance, a stupor. The scriptures say that the stupor shall fall upon the people. It's like being brain dead. Ask somebody a question, like, huh? Hey, where you going to a store and be like, hey, can you show me where the grits are? They're like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Can you show her the grits are? Huh? I'll get somebody who can help you. Like, bro, you work here. You stocking shelves. You're supposed to know. You want to know one of the things that cause stupors? Drugs. Weed. Everybody smoke weed these days. Everybody does it. Scriptures say to be sober-minded in these days. That brings on a stupor. You're brain dead. You're brain dead. Look. You sit there, you see somebody who hides just staring up into space. Like a vegetable. That's a stupor. Right? This is nothing new to Israel. This is something that we've been doing for generations. This is what got us in this predicament in the first place. But see, it's the witchcraft that's keeping us in this predicament. It's the reason we're still in the predicament in the first place. And the sooner we realize it, the sooner that we realize that remember, it says the worshiping of idols is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. Right? So understanding that there's an idol connected to all these religions that we're in, we need to put those away. That means walking away from Christianity and the cross. That means walking away from Islam and going back and serving our God. Right? When you can't address the history of magic and voodoo without first addressing the idols. Because that's the beginning. That's where it all started. In each situation, that's where it started. And that's what's keeping us in the predicament that we're in now. Right? The fact that the whole nation, as large and as powerful as Israel, can forget their identity and continue to be bound and oppressed under other nations is sorcery and rich witchcraft in and of itself. The fact that you forget your nationality, right? For a black person, they don't have a real nationality. You're just black. Imagine if you forgot that you were black. And they were able to keep you from forgetting your ethnicity. You don't know who you are for generations, for decades, for centuries. You forgot what your ethnicity is. What kind of sorcery is that? Right? Like I said, this is nothing new for Israel. It's not new. This is old. And the fact that we still have to deal with it, with these oppressive spirits, not realizing that we still haven't freed ourselves from the oppressive spirits. Anytime that you're in a church and somebody who doesn't look like you is preaching to you and teaching you, guess who your authority is? I mean, you're in a little synagogue speaking Yiddish, right? Your authority is Jews. Your authority is Jewish people. That's your authority. Right? And people think that T.D. Jakes and all these black pastors run their own churches. Guess what? They can lose their jobs too. There's councils. You know, there's councils that you can go to where the councils decide, hey, we want to take this pastor out of a job and put this pastor in his place. So if you honestly think that a pastor that it's a black man running that church, you're sadly mistaken. And even then, other brothers, local grassroots churches, guess what? They're not running their churches either. Because guess what? They went to theology school. And who are the theologians they learned from? White people, Jewish people. So you're still subservient. And that's the oppressive spirit. There's such thing as an oppressive spirit, a spirit that keeps you in bondage. A spirit that can chain you without you realizing it. Like I said, you got 100 slaves that are being whipped every day and being forced to work, and only 7 people, but yet you did nothing. In fact, you couldn't even unite all the 100 slaves you had like 2 or 3 slaves, and all the rest of them looking at them like, you must be crazy. You got 7 people versus 100 or more. It's an oppressive spirit. That mindset is a spirit. The spirit of poverty. That exists too. A spirit of poverty, being in a constant state of feeling impoverished, even when you've moved out of that state. You go from living in poverty to living in something much better, but you're still living like you got nothing, like you're still broke. That's a spirit. It's a spirit. Right? The only way to free ourselves from oppressive spirits is for our nation to return once again to our strength, which lies with our God. That means putting away idols. We have to put them away. Not only put away the physical idols, but put away the idols from our hearts as well. Because the scriptures say, remember Lot's wife. She left the city, but her heart was still there. Her body left the city, but her heart was still there. So she looked back. You can throw away an idol, but if your heart is still connected to that idol, it's still there. It's still spiritual fornication. Right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing as in a marriage. If you've cheated on your wife, you can tell that you can stay with your wife and put that other woman away. But if your heart is still connected to that other woman, you're still committing spiritual fornication. You don't fornicate or commit adultery with your body first. It's with your mind, with your heart. Right?
Good point.
It's the same thing with the Most High. You can't say, oh, I love the Most High, I'm going to put away all these things, but your heart is still connected to Buddha. Mm-hmm. Your heart is still with Allah. Your heart is still with Yahweh. That's the only way we get our strength back. That's why we as a people are still oppressed. But we're still blind. We're still looking to these idols saying, hey, wake up. Wake up. like the brothers that the prophet was picking on. Oh, wake up. Come on now. Looking stupid. Right? We have to put down these gods we learned from the heathen. Let those gods stay where they at. Right? Mm-hmm. And become the prophets, the priests, and the royal priesthood that we were set up to be in the first place. That's the only way. Right? We have to put down those, right? And submit ourselves under the last king and priest, Yeshua Christ. That's the only way. The only person we should be subservient to is Christ. And Christ is of our ethnicity. The scriptures say that he revealed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation. Right? The only person if there's another person from outside of the nation of Israel that's trying to teach you or trying to go into your Bible and teach you something out of there, that's the same oppressive spirit. Come on. You feel like you gotta, and that's another thing. It's not that Gentiles can't come into the body and be saved, but what you're not gonna do is come into our body, come into our church and try to run something. No, you got to sit back and learn. That's the way this goes. That's the way this goes. Right? But in order to fully come out of this spirit that connects us to idolatry, we have to recognize that there is a spirit in the first place. Understand what I'm saying? That means it ain't nothing, it's just a little rock. I'm not worshiping it. Oh, it's just a little giraffe. I'm not worshiping it. It's denial. It's denial. Right? Now, that wraps up the conclusion of part 2, the last part of the history of magic and voodoo. Right? And we may sometime, maybe in the near future, do a lesson on how to free yourself from demonic forces and from spirits and from idols, right? But we need to lay the foundation, because you can't fight an enemy that you don't know the origins of. You can't fight an enemy that you can't see, right? And that's the problem, is that we look at this and the scriptures say we battle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, rulers of darkness in high places, right? Our enemy is unseen. And in order for us to be able to fight this enemy, we have to know, first of all, who the enemy is and where it comes from, so we're better equipped to fight it. That's why we did this lesson, right? And that is the conclusion. That is the conclusion of our lesson, right? Go ahead and grab Jeremiah.
Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
Read.
For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke off thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. Verse 9. But they shall serve the Lord their God and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore, fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord. Neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid.
He's going to return us to our former strength, the end of Jacob's trouble. Notice it says he'll break the yoke from off thy neck. We don't have any physical yokes on our neck, do we? Remember that oppressive spirit. He's freeing us from that oppressive spirit that was placed on us by our captors. Right? Amalek. That's who our enemy is. And we're going to have to do a separate lesson on that as well. On Amalek in specific. Right? It says, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Our captivity is coming to an end. Right? Our captivity is coming to an end. Right?
That's right.
All praises to the Most High once again for continuing to edify us and continuing to give to this ministry and our blessings from you all. Thank you. And at this moment, now that we've come to the conclusion of the lesson, do we have any questions or comments?
What would be some like modern day items that you would say are very relevant? Because you seem to have an eye for the spiritual.
People is a big one. And one thing that we tend to forget, even when it comes to righteous men, is that they're men. Mm-hmm. When it comes to righteous men, that is a servant. That is not a king, right? But we see these people and we give them reverence and this honor as if they're something greater than what they are. The scriptures say that the greatest among you shall be your servants. That's what we are. Us teaching you is not us having authority over you. It's us serving you. It's us serving you. Right? So we have to understand that, and that's the biggest part. It's mainly people. Oh, did you know? And keep in mind, it says giving reverence to one that is far off, right? What does she do today? What does such and such do today? Oh, what is she going to do today? What is this? You never met this person in your life, but you're giving honor and reverence to this person. Right? So people is a big one. Certain items and things that people are attached to that things that have certain sentimental value, things that, like, for the perfect example, the cell phone. That can be considered one as well. Can't live without my cell phone. Can't live without it. I mean, it's a lot. An idol is what you make it. It's anything or anyone that you magnify greater than what it actually is.
So that brings self into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Self is another one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Christ said in Matthew chapter 16, it says that when Yeshua said to his disciples, if any man shall come after me, let him deny himself, let him take up his cross and follow me. That's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to live selfless in days and times like this. And so I would say modern day times, self is probably one of the bigger ones out there.
And even then, because you have people telling you to reverence yourself as a god. Oh, woman is God, right? Different things like that. All those different deceptions and wickedness that they're putting out there. Vainglory and self-worship is a huge one. Like I said, an idol is anything that you make that you make and that you reverence to yourself. I could take one of them plants from out there and reverence it as a god. Look at it growing. All I got to do is put water in it and it sprouts up. Must be God.
I mean, right? Anytime we have to have a choice between self and the Most High, self always wins. So that's just the case. It's unfortunate, but
majority of the time it's the case.
Exactly.
I was going to say I needed this lesson. This whole thing was very helpful because about 2 weeks ago, I was noticing like I would be on my phone way more often than I usually be. So I'm like, why am I always on my phone? And this time I started reading more, and I was like why? I don't know why, but I just had that problem. So I looked up on YouTube. I was like, how do you battle with addiction? Like, manage. I started off with managing my time. So I'm like, I was trying to manage my time, but I'm still squeezing my phone in the period of managing my time. So I'm like, okay, I noticed an addiction now. Like, you feel me? I'm always on my phone. So I'm like, okay, how do you battle addiction? So I looked up a video on YouTube, and it was talking about all this extra stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna just sit through the hour long because at the end of the day, it's gonna help me. I might as well just, use this time to do that. So towards the end, he was just like, at the end of the day, addiction is not addiction. People think they come to the realization at the end, like, I'm an alcoholic, so I gotta fix myself. It's like, no, you're worshiping something else. You're giving your time to that. Wherever it is, like you probably sit in your room that dark time period where you could be doing something else. You're doing that for that period of time away from whoop. Like, you feel me? Like you're actually going out your way, tiptoeing wherever you are. You feel me? Whipping out your phone today, like to be there for hours. Like that's something that you giving yourself to. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I really struggle with. That's why I need this. The whole idolatry thing. It could be a lot of things, but that's what I was struggling with, and I needed this lesson. So thank you.
All praises. I mean, and addiction can go for anything. Anything, like, people think that you can only be addicted to drugs and alcohol and different things like that. But if you take somebody's phone from them for a significant amount of time, you're gonna see the same withdrawal symptoms that you see from a person that's stuck on crack. You start seeing, hey, give it back. It's like, it's like, at first you're all good. He's like, okay, I just need my phone back. Go and give it back. Please give it back. Give it back. Hold up. You just did a switch on me now. Something came up. Right?
Them cell phones almost like the rapture doctrine to Christians.
Exactly. It's
don't want to let it go.
It's a valuable tool. A phone is a valuable tool. It allows us to communicate with people from one side of the earth to another. We have ready access to everything, but what we must realize is that, like I said, the phone is you can almost put it in the same place as a divinator. Right? You go to you're looking on your phone as opposed to, well, how do I do this? Let me check. How do I resolve my issue with this? Let me check. Before you go and pray. The first thing you do is think, oh, well, let me go look this up, but you don't think to pray. See, this is a valuable tool by the Most High because you do have ready access to everything. There's a lot of times where I'm on my phone and I'm looking through something, I see something that something clicks, and next thing you know, I'm typing up a lesson on it. Elder knows. I be sitting around the house and next thing you know, I'm like, hey, Dad, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? It's a valuable tool in that way. But what we must also realize is that it's very, very dangerous. All things in moderation. Even good things. You can eat clean meat, but keep in mind, too much meat is a bad thing, right? So absolutely. All praises to the Most High. And like I said, there's a thin line. There's a very, very thin line for everything. And we as a people have to be on our toes. We are susceptible. It's a generational curse. I'll put it that way. We are susceptible. Just like one person may have a generational curse of alcohol may run in their family, and this person's, they struggle with addictions to sex and fornication, right? It's the same. Israel, our generational curse is idol worship. It's idol worship. It's the one thing that we can trace all the way back. Spiritual fornication is something we can translate all the way back to the conception of our nation, because our nation was born in spiritual fornication. We were born in Egypt, a nation with a bunch of different gods. We were conceived in spiritual fornication, right? So that's something that we as a nation have to be extra aware of, that we don't fall into. You see what I'm saying? And that's part of us being spiritually aware at all times, right? Being aware not only of our surroundings, the people we listen to, the people we talk to, the people that we give counsel with. Another thing that I wanted to say is we need to have enough of going to people who aren't in this truth and trying to get advice from them.
Thank you. Say it again.
Enough of people going and getting advice and counsel from people who are not in the truth. Enough of it, because they don't know what righteousness is. Their idea of good and evil is already skewed. So how do you expect to go to this person and get righteous advice when they aren't living righteously? They in pork talking about some girl, you need to leave him. You don't need no man. You want some of this rib? You want some of this pork belly? It's enough of that. They don't know what good and evil is. The scriptures say have one counselor of 1,000. That counselor should be like-minded to you.
Come on.
You should be able to counsel that person, and that person should be able to counsel you. But that don't mean that anybody is a counselor. You can't go talk to just anybody. If you have a conversation, a deep conversation with one person, and you go and have the same deep conversation with another person, you're talking to too many people, getting information from too many different avenues. One person. But that person should be like-minded to you. We have to get enough of that. Going to, oh, let me go speak to a psychologist. A psychologist doesn't know the scriptures. A psychologist doesn't know how to resolve an issue according to the scriptures. We have to go before the Most High on those things, right? And that's part of another thing that plagues our people: the blind leading the blind. Why is it that you are one that can see, but you're going and getting advice from someone who's blind? See the backwards thinking? The backwards thinking of some people, right? That's something that amongst our people needs to stop.
That's right. And
somebody's gonna watch this and say, "Oh, wait, they're right," because you're in the truth, getting advice from somebody who's not in the truth, and now you're in the pickle, and you're trying to figure out why. Why is every time I go and get advice from this sister, from this brother, things get worse? Guess. Guess. Right? And like I said, this is the small things among our people. It's the small things among our people that we need to shore up. And this is what the Most High is using this time for. That's what the memorial blowing of trumpets is for. That's all connects back. The memorial blowing of trumpets, the reminder that Christ is coming, right? He's the reminder that Christ is coming, the Day of Atonement, the time where we recognize our sin, give honor and reverence to Christ, and fix ourselves. And then there's the Feast of Tabernacles coming up tonight, it's about to start in a minute, sundown, probably about an hour. Feast of Tabernacles starts in an hour. What is that? The time that the Most High is preparing to come get his people. We're going back. How many of you know that we're going back into the wilderness? How many of y'all know that that's the purging period? That's the purge. That's when the Most High is going to start. That's when the Most High is going to start rooting out evil from among Israel. That's what the Day of Atonement is preparation for. Get yourself right, so when you get to those booths, you make it to the end. Oh, when you get the Most High, remember, Moses, and when Moses guided Israel into the wilderness, and people who did wickedness were killed by the Most High, according to the law. That's what that is. It's purging out the evil from amongst Israel. Just because you make it to the wilderness does not mean that you made it to the end. And let me tell you this, it shows the level of wickedness, because even the low level stuff, even the dietary law is going to be broken in the wilderness. So that just proves that it's not going to be the elite of the elite that get into the wilderness. It's going to be some ones that just found their way there, that were smart enough to get there. Attach themselves to the right people to get to where they needed to go, but they were still eating pork the whole time. And guess what? The Most High is going to gone, dead. That's what this is preparation. This is the preparation period. It's preparation period. I know I got things that I got to get right within myself. I'm not perfect. Elder, same thing. Sisters, brothers, cousins, friends, everybody got something. The Most High is keying in on that. He said, okay, get that. All right, now get this. He's preparing us for what we're about to, for the feast day that we're about to go into now. for the end of Jacob's trouble. And a big part of what we need to get rid of is we need to detach ourselves as a nation from idols. All right? Do we have any more questions? All right. If all minds and hearts, do you have anything, Elder?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's wrap this up. If all minds are clear, we want to give all thanks and praise to the Most High, Hayabah Hashem Yeshaya, Wabrawak, once again for continuing to bless this body, this ministry, for continuing to enlarge us with, continuing to add wisdom and enlarge us in this knowledge and in this faith, and continuing to provide for us in these times, right? And we'll like to send prayers out to all those who watch this video. We send prayers to all of our brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone. And as we continue to push forward in this faith. The scripture says iron sharpens iron, and we are to exhort one another to continue in the faith. We're also to forsake the assembly. There is strength in gathering. The more people who are united under the same goal, under the same God, the more powerful and the stronger we are. Right. Why do you think they're trying to keep us separate? Oh, stay 6 feet apart. Don't have gatherings of more than 10. It's not that they're afraid of random people. They're afraid of us. They know what this time is. They have a knowledge of what this time is. The more people who are gathered here with the same faith and the same understanding, the more dangerous it is for them.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And with that, I would like to say for the moment coming, have a blessed Feast of Tabernacles for those who are watching. We send all of our prayers, love. Subscribe, hit the like button, all of that good stuff. Share on your social media pages. Get this word out, right? Because Christ is coming, and this is a lesson that a lot of people are going to need, that a lot of people do need.
That's right.
Right? So with that, we will say Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, everybody, let's stand up.